Do we all have to hit OK for it to work where it says it's
No,
recording?
I think it does okay if not, but it's okay to just hit okay. And it appears that it's working.
Do we all have to hit OK for it to work?
Good. I was waiting for that to come up. Yeah, it's working okay. Let's see. All right. So, great. So, and since it just started recording, I'll repeat the question. Hang on. Thomas just asked me if I'm hosting it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Um, so the question for Mary from Mary was about notifications and then about volume. And so what the and that's weird. Maybe Thomas was trying to get in and that was kicking us out. I
Oh,
bet. Because
Oh.
that's why I sent the email to MacNexus, but I bet he didn't get it. So hang on here.
that makes sense.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
in
comma.
between one of
Were you
your
trying to get
4-second
logged in?
failures,
If
I
so,
got another meeting
stop.
in progress. That probably
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
was going on.
that's yeah. So okay, good. That might have been what the hiccups were.
Well,
So
good.
I just
Solvable.
didn't get the late email. Anyway, so um, the question was getting notifications and then talking about volume. Well, one thing that's really unique about the iPhone is that when you adjust the volume, it's contingent on whatever it is currently doing. And I'll just give you an example. If you want to set the ringer volume, that you do when the phone is kind of off, nothing else, and you can adjust the ringer. But that won't adjust whatever your last volume setting was when you were listening, say, to Apple Music.
Okay.
And so there's no system-wide volume thing. In other words, it's contextual with whatever it is. And it goes so far as let's talk about a phone call. You know, those things we used to make a long time ago. And on a phone call, if you're using it as a speakerphone, you adjust the volume and it will stay whatever that is. But in fact, if you're on not a speakerphone call and you're holding it to your ear, that volume is independent of whatever you set for speakerphone. And so that is something that comes up with people a lot, and they just can't understand why that is. And it's a wonderful thing because,
Yeah.
you know, you can do it. Now, obviously, you can use the silent mute button that's above the volume controls, and that will mute it. And but like if you have an alarm set, the alarm will come through. So, but notifications, and what further complicates and so notifications are actually I equate it to like when you're driving your car and you have voice navigation on and in the regular car navigation, you if you're good, you can use your volume control on your car to adjust when the person is speaking, giving you directions, you can adjust the volume. But if you adjust the volume the rest of the time, it's adjusting the radio volume kind of thing. So in this case,
Yeah.
you may have your notification sound lower than your other things. Also, what affects it is what we used to call do not disturb, but now is called focus. And you can use that um, to adjust how whether you want to hear a notification or not. So,
Shan, that was wonderful. I hadn't heard, I mean, I don't even feel stupid asking the question now because I think many of us didn't know all of that detail. So,
and
and
it's been that way since the very beginning of the iPhone. And of course, as it does more and more, it becomes more critical on that.
And it's just more complicated in a way. So if I want to change like my notifications, if texts aren't coming through very loudly, I should have Lisa text me, and while the notification is on, make sure the volume is up.
Well, now here, what you can do is do me a favor and report back is if you go into what's in your settings on your phone that says sound and haptics,
Okay, let me get back there. I was on notifications.
it's in settings.
Yeah, wait a minute.
You go to sound and haptics.
Is that under accessibility?
Nope, it's under
Oh, there it is. I got it.
screen.
Yeah,
So now you'll notice if you come down to the third line, it says ringtones and alerts.
that's the first line, but yeah.
Mm,
On my,
should be the third line. Starts with silent mode and show in status bar under sound and haptics. Then you have
sound and haptics. I may not have the most, it's got
you may not
ringtones
be
and alerts at the
most
top. Okay.
okay. All right. So anyway, so that's a general one. And then you'll notice, below it, does it say change with buttons?
Yes,
Is it on or off?
off.
Turn it on. And then when you're doing the adjustments with the button, it will do it. I don't know why it made it used to always be that way, and then Apple turned that off.
Thank you, Ken.
But then what you can do is you can go down, and this is what I'm wondering about is when you set certain alerts for certain things, if you adjust the volume then, not just the ringtone, but the volume, it may stay with it, but I'm not positive about that.
Okay, well, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
But I
Hey,
think,
Thomas, got a question for you.
yeah, there you go.
You're muted. You're talking, but you're still muted.
There we are. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Were you logging in and then it was saying ending another meet? Okay. I guess you didn't get my email late last night.
I didn't get your email, and I had gotten up at 6. I thought you would have gotten a notice that I logged into YouTube, right? Because they usually send you that link, and because I got up this morning to check it all because I wanted to be better than normal.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't get that. But what was happening is it kept kicking. I started the meeting.
Oh,
And then
crap.
all of a sudden the meeting would crash.
Oh,
And then I'm
no.
going back in and then it says end meeting. And you were probably getting the meeting crashing.
Exactly.
So
And I didn't know.
we were having a power struggle there.
Dude, hold
Well,
on. I got.
no problem. We're back and we're good. And
Who
you
the
know,
heck is
I mean,
this?
Was
it is what
Thomas
it is,
staging a
but yeah, sorry.
was
Hey,
Thomas
possession's
staging a
9 points
coup?
God.
of the law.
I'm sorry, Bob, what'd you say? And then Lisa said
It says,
something.
hey, possession's 9 points to the law.
Yeah, but we kept kicking each other out, so it was kind of like, well, I'll show you.
Yeah.
But no,
Well, I
it
was I
it
was
was
just
really
asking if Thomas was staging a coup or not.
yeah. I hope he does.
I know. You'd probably say, "Welcome. Let me open the door for you.
Yeah. All right.
Come
I
in.
thought
Be
it was, and it
comfortable."
was funny because it kept happening when I would go in, I'd fire up the meeting and I would change MacNexus to Ken Spencer as Pete Losey.
Yeah.
And that's what, and I was going, well, was that causing it?
Well, yeah, I'm having. I was all nervous, of course. So
No. But you and I suspected that might be it, but then I didn't see you. But then it makes sense because you weren't joining my meeting; you were joining your meeting.
Well,
Anyway,
there was a reason for it anyway that we could
yeah,
figure out. Yeah.
we're up to speed, and all 12 of us are here. In fact, I even fired it up from my iPhone to see if it was a problem with my computer. And
oh
I was
yeah,
doing
yeah.
I did the Zoom twice from my iPhone, and so. That was weird. Anyway, welcome, welcome. All right. Barbara Moore has a question, and we are being recorded. So go ahead, Barbara.
I actually have a comment and a question. The first one is that when I went to the MacNexus website to get the link to sign in, I went to today's session and clicked Zoom, and all I got was a thing for Zoom. So I couldn't get a link. So I finally found an old email and came in that way. But I couldn't link from the website, which I understood from Mary you ought to be able to do.
Well, yeah, I'll show you that. I'll show you where it is. So hang
Great,
on
that would
one
be
sec.
helpful.
You
And
could
then I
have been
have a
in the
question.
timing, Barbara, because it kept
Did you-
spinning for me. It took a while.
Well, Barbara, did you see the link on the website?
I clicked on events and then I clicked on today's date and it had, the class. And then below it said Zoom and I clicked Zoom and I got two messages that said
Yeah, that
it's
was when we
expired.
were having the power struggle.
Oh, is that what that was? Oh,
Yeah.
so I got caught in the middle of your struggle, huh?
Yeah, it was like a coup d'etat.
So I should be able to have clicked, when I clicked on the Zoom, I should have gotten the link.
Well, no, maybe we should just blame you.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah, it was all Barbara's fault. You were
Oh,
clicking
God.
wrong.
But seriously, if I should be able to do that, if I can't find the link in my email, I should be able to go to the website, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And the first Saturday and the general meeting are always the same link.
okay,
The
okay,
only one that's different is the third Saturday one, and they
right,
have a different link for that.
okay.
And Barbara, if you have it in your calendar as a recurring event, you
Hmm.
can
No, I don't.
add. You don't?
No,
Oh,
Well, no, and you know what? And I'm planning to add it because we have the subscription calendar, and I didn't get a chance.
yeah.
In fact, you guys can email me in the meantime here and tell me to update the calendar, and I will put the Zoom link in the subscription calendars because we have both a Gmail and or a Google and an Apple calendar that you can subscribe to, and that shows up on your regular calendar. In fact, here, let's do that first. Let's see, let me share my screen.
when you finish that, Ken, I do have a question.
Okay, let me go do this and then hold on to your question.
Sure.
So I'm going to go to Safari and here is MacNexus. We'll go to home. So we're at the home screen in MacNexus. And let me get my little cursor arrow. So right over here on the right hand side, it says subscribe to calendar. And if you click subscribe to calendar, nothing happens. Okay, come on.
Hmm.
I wonder if that's broken. Oh, here I think it downloaded. Yeah, it's supposed to be downloading an ICS file. And it's preparing to download all in that. Well, I'll do some checking on that. That's too bad because they may have, oh, well, here we go. Hang on, allow. I'll try that again. There it went. It downloaded a file and see it came up here and it says, and I'm not going to do it because I already have it in my calendar. And you say, oh, you're going to add this new event and you choose which calendar of yours you want to put it in. And then you hit OK. And then it will show up as a repeating in your calendar. And what happens too is like this coming Thanksgiving and Christmas, our dates will be different. So it will reflect it on the calendar. Now, going forward, in fact, let's go to today's date. I got to move this over here. So what I'll do is I'll be adding the URL to the Zoom to these so that when you click on the calendar, it'll be there. So, and that's easier than, because if you set up your own repeating calendar, which I have in green for myself, then if we change the dates, it won't reflect it, but these others will be completely interactive. And then going back to the web page, I also have right here, this calendar right here is actually a Google-based calendar. And if I click that, there's the Zoom link right there, I think. So I'm not going to click it because it might mess things up.
And Ken, I'm sorry, laundry called. Where do I get the Apple version?
Well, right over here under this button, subscribe to
Okay,
calendar. And then it'll pop up and it'll say, do you want to allow it to download? And it comes down and you'll get an option that pops up and you can decide to put it in, your personal, your work calendar, whatever you want to put it in.
thank you for repeating that.
Yeah. And then I'm also, and you'll notice that on the calendar now, the MacNexus social is on here too, upcoming in 5 days. So want to make sure everybody knows that. And I think, yeah, I even put the address and everything in that.
Since you mentioned it, how many do we have a show of hands on or something? Has everybody heard? Because we haven't gotten a lot of RSV.
Well, and again, that's the problem because we haven't been able to get the
Yeah. Well,
emails go out.
it'll be what it is, and we'll enjoy whoever's there.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's, so we'll see. But I
So
think,
far, since I monitor that address, I've forwarded them to Randy. There's only 3 people that are signed up.
well,
I-
and again, I think we're in a little bit of a void and it's the first one and things like that. So,
It'll still be
but
fun.
yep, yeah, absolutely. And let me look. I think yeah, I may, as long as I don't have to go up and work on the car because we leave on the 14th for the great race. So,
Oh, okay.
all righty. So that's that on the calendar. And then Mary or Lisa, can one of you guys send me an email and remind me to put the Zoom link on the calendar, and I'll do that after all today's meetings. So Barbara, you had another question.
Yeah, I have Apple AirPods and I don't remember which model I have. I think it's the Pro. And I was debating about updating to the newest one because of the hearing features. And when I was reading the various features and specs, some of them had said depends on which phone you have, depends on where you're located and stuff. And I wondered if you can explain what, if any, advantages there are to upgrading to the Pro 2, since there are these apparently some limitations depending on those kinds of factors.
Okay, so first of all, the way to determine if you have the regular AirPods or the AirPods Pro is if you have a very flexible tip on it
Okay,
that where you have different sizes that they make.
okay,
That would be the Pro.
okay,
And the Pros were the first ones to have the noise canceling.
okay.
The way to tell if you have the original Pro, the one, so to speak, or the Pro 2 is, do you use, is it a lightning connector that you put to charge it, or whether it's USB-C?
Okay,
And if it's USB-C, then it's the 2, and it should be, quote, hearing aid compatible at that point. Now,
okay,
that being said, rumors are pretty good that in September we'll get the AirPods Pro 3. Al, are you seeing that too?
I know it's on the near horizon. Uh, could be sooner than September, but I would think, they've got a lot of things to release in September, of course, with all the OS stuff, and new phones typically come in September. Uh, and it's been a while since they've updated since the Pro 2s that were out. So
okay.
Right. And Barbara, do you use hearing aids?
I don't, but I'm about to follow your advice and go to Costco and get a hearing test.
We'll do that first. And
Right.
then the really cool thing is, believe it or not, with the AirPods Pro 2, it can do a hearing test. And I found that it was very, very uh, uh, similar to what my results were from Costco. So
Huh.
I would go first and check that out and see. But now here's the deal. While the AirPods Pro 2, and we assume the 3 will too, will have the ability to act as a hearing aid, having a hearing aid once you need it is something that you should use all the time.
Right.
And the AirPods Pros are are not that comfortable to be wearing all day because you have it where it kind of creates a seal in your ear and things like that. And so it's not able to breathe and things like that. So while it can be a hearing aid, I think it is not something that you should think of as a replacement for hearing aids. And the best thing is, hearing aid prices are dropping so dramatically because they changed the laws on it,
Yeah.
where you used to have to go to an audiologist and all that. But it's opened up the bazaar to all these people that have the greatest thing since sliced bread that they'll sell you on late night TV for, next and, for something in anyway. But I think Costco's great. They have a good selection. Uh, I really don't think that it's a good replacement for a hearing aid. I think if you end up needing hearing aids, you got to get real hearing aids. So
Okay. And if you want that listen live or live listen feature that you've talked to us about before, do you have to specifically ask if it does that, or if it just is compatible with an iPhone? Is that sufficient?
great question. So again, for those that aren't up to speed on it, there is this capability on the AirPods Pro 2 or on actually I think even the ones, but also on certain hearing aids where you can turn your phone into a microphone to aid in your hearing. And I'll give you the perfect example is, let's say let's say you're at the Limelight at our social
Please.
and it's a little noisy in there and you're sitting across the table from someone, and when you're hard of hearing and when you have hearing aids, background noise is tough because it gets amplified along with the person you're trying to listen to. So you take your iPhone, you turn on live listen, and you set the bottom of the iPhone in front of the person that's across from you. And now think of it like you had just handed them a microphone that is a pathway directly into your ears.
Ah,
And what that is it leverages the microphone on the phone and amplifies that to your hearing aids. Now, not all hearing aids are capable of that, and it doesn't always have to do with price. But a better hearing aid, you want to look for what is called MFI, which stands for Made for iPhone. And
okay.
that if it is MFI, it will support live listen and other features. For instance, let's say you end up going to the Limelight once a month for these socials. Since you know your location, your phone senses your GPS. You could even have a setting that you could set that would know the location and would then set the sound levels however you want. Now, the live listen is great, but you don't leave live listen on all the time because it kind of creates a little bit of a it's really made for the situation. Another situation is, let's say you're in a small room and you have a person speaking from a podium. You could go even put your phone up at the podium.
Hmm.
And as long as you're within 30 to 50 feet of that speaker, that you would be able to hear better what that speaker is saying. Now, that being said, since you're going to look at things like, for instance, out here at Sun City and many public venues, they have the ability to accommodate uh, hearing devices. And there are a couple ways to do that. And one of them is so for instance, here at Sun City, we have it's a retirement community, and so they've done a really good job of trying to make sure they have it. But I know the Memorial Auditorium or the Convention Center, a lot of these places, public venues, and I think even theaters
Hmm.
have the capability to send the signal to your hearing aid directly, and there's a couple ways to do it. One way is called a T coil, and it's the letter T and then coil. And then the other ones are where you actually can fire up an app on your phone. The phone receives the signal and then sends it to your hearing aid. And so this can be whether it's you're at UC Davis or you're at the Gallo Center or the one up in Folsom. You know, they have these capabilities for these things. And that's another thing why it's real important to get a hearing aid that's MFI, but there's an additional one that's called T-coil. And I don't know how popular it is and stuff, but you can do some research on that. And the T-coil actually is where it goes directly to the hearing aid. And the reason it's called a T-coil is there's just this cylindrical wire that works like an antenna to receive that signal. And I'll tell you, it's made a huge difference for people that are hearing impaired. In fact, I don't know if you've ever seen people with these, they're called cochlear implants. It's where it's a thing attached to the head. I mean, those people are stone cold deaf. And the cochlear implants have a receiver on the outside, and everything's implanted in the ear, but what happens is you have this receiver on the outside of the skull, and that's also the battery because you obviously have to charge it. And that can be a T-coil, it can be Bluetooth now, and it can do these other things. So,
And do you have to have a certain model iPhone that's new enough to do this, or
it's been
will
around
12
for
mini?
quite a while, and I think that, well, the question is, which model iPhone do you have?
12 mini.
You're fine.
Okay.
Absolutely. So good questions. And I
Thank
and,
you.
and I work with our hearing impaired group out here, and it's a big deal. And these are little things that are kind of hidden that aren't talked about much as far as the iPhone and accessibility. And the other nice thing is you can set it up so with a triple click of the side button on the iPhone, you can get right in and you can adjust your volume settings for your hearing aids through the iPhone app. Now, most good hearing aids also have an app on the iPhone for you to adjust it. It used to be you'd have to go into an audiologist to adjust it because, there's situations where your right ear might be more sensitive than your left ear and things like that. Well, you're able to go in and adjust that if you have an MFI hearing aid
Huh,
and an iPhone.
great.
It's a good question, and as you can tell, I talk about it a lot. I mean, I just it's important, and it's one of those life-changing, life-enhancing moments. And I'll just share a quick little story that just makes me feel so good. Out out here at Sun City, we have a thing called the Open Lab, which was just like the old triage that we used to have down in Grace Cafe, right? And this lady came in. This was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. She came in and she had presented with a problem with her MacBook. So as she sits down, she turns to me. I don't know her from Adam, and she says, "You'll have to kind of speak up a bit. I'm a little hard of hearing." and she's here to have her MacBook fixed. And I looked and I saw she had hearing aids. And I said, "Here, give me your iPhone." She unlocked her iPhone. And she's kind of like looking at me. She's like, "Well, no, I'm here to get my MacBook fixed. What's up, you know?" And I said, and I had her unlock her phone, and I went into her phone and I turned on live listen, and I turned away from her and I whispered into her phone, "Can you hear me?" And by the time I turned around, she was tearful and bawling her eyes out because she heard me and she said, "Oh my God, when I go to dinner now, I can hear my husband." She instantly knew the ramifications of that. And then we went on and proceeded to take care of her MacBook, you know. But it is amazing. And the last thing I'll say about the hearing is, Barbara's doing the right thing by going out and getting her hearing checked, because if you continue to neglect your hearing, it will continue to get worse because it's cumulative.
Right.
And at some point, your body will say, "Well, you know what? You're not using that sense anymore. I'm going to pay more attention to sight and taste and touch. And so I'm going to neglect that." And so it really does affect it. And thank goodness it's been embraced these days. It's so hard because it's a vanity thing. "Oh, I'm getting old, and oh, I'm getting my hearing checked." Yeah, but you know what? It's a hell of a lot better to be able to hear things. It's almost like, think of the stigma it used to be about glasses. "Oh, that's four eyes and stuff." And look how much glasses enhance what we can do. So
And
anyway,
it's
and
dementia related too, Ken.
oh,
If
really?
Yeah, because the idea is that you end up retreating and you don't have the
Oh,
interactions and stuff. So
lack of stimulation too.
lack of stimulation. So there's I don't know that it's a cause, but there could be a relationship. So just keep that
Good.
in mind too.
Peter McDonough, who is at his age, should have dementia, but he's sharp as can be.
Hi. Hi, Ken. I have a few questions, but I should tell you this. I just turned 94. I was up at the lodge up here, had one of the widows, after 3 glasses of red wine, she thinks I look like Brad Pitt.
Work it, buddy.
That's it.
Good for you.
I told my guys, they said it had to be 10 glasses of red wine. You look more like Tom Cruise.
Nice.
Good
I
job,
need to get a
Pete.
picture of Brad Pitt and put it in this blank space.
Well, it's funny. Out here, we have a guy who moved away from Sun City to go to assisted living with he and his wife, Andy Petro. Great guy. Former or was a Marine. He's a Marine, and he taught a lot of the classes here. And he had to cancel one of his presentations out, very similar to how I am Pete Losey for the day. In fact, I should have done the same thing. But when I went to do the presentation, we were doing Zoom at the time and in person out here. And I had a picture of Andy. And so I printed a picture on a piece of paper and I had a little 1 foot wood ruler, and I put it on it. And during the beginning of the presentation, I put the picture of Andy Petro in front of my face. So anyway, go ahead with your question, Pete.
Oh, I have over the ear hearing aid. I was wondering if you got the one you got plug in your ear.
I don't, luckily yet, I don't need hearing aids. I'm right on the borderline of needing them. So
Okay. Second question, then my hand shakes sometimes. My pictures come out weird. Is there a lumbar level with a little bubble that I can put on my iPhone to center the bubble for my pictures?
to level the horizon,
Yeah, like the a little bubble app or something to add to my photos. I struggle to get them, everything squared off.
When you say squared off, do you mean level with the horizon?
Bingo.
Okay. Yes, there it's built in. So why don't I bring my phone up on the screen? And let's see here. Now that I know what our crashing was earlier, I don't have to worry about this. Let me hook up by cable. Great question. And actually, while I'm setting this up, if you have any other question, go ahead.
No, that's it. Thank you very much. I'm going to say
Okay.
thank you now.
Okay, and then Mary, go ahead and ask your question while I'm getting my phone set up to share. So
Put a link in the chat there.
go ahead, Al.
No, I found a little site here. It's how to use your iPhone's hidden camera level to align your shots.
Yeah, I'm going to show how to set it up, so I
Great.
think everybody can do it here. It's very, very beneficial. But I'm not, it's weird. They've changed how they'll do it. So I'll use reflector here. Doesn't look like my share my phone is a zoom option. Let's close that and try it again. Huh. Used to be able to share your iPhone directly. Let's see if it's in advanced. There we go. iPhone, iPad via cable. Okay. You guys should see my phone. Okay. So so what Pete is asking about, and it's important, is we will go down here to apps so everybody can follow along. This is something everyone should have on their phone. There's going to be two things, and I'll show you for your phone camera. Let me make my screen clearer by saying, there we go. There we go. Okay. You can still see my screen, correct? My phone?
Yes.
So tap apps at the bottom, or if you're on an older OS, just go down to the camera app. And I have so many, I'll just hit the C on the right. And it's regular camera. Hang on here, though. Boy, I'll bet you it's in the beginning. Let's see. It's before, you don't go down to apps, excuse me. It's right in here. Right in here, camera. So when you tap camera, so everybody should be in this same screen. If not, if you can't get there, ask. And then we go down to, well, there's a couple things. One is preserve settings. And sometimes, well, that's a whole different thing. Let's forget that. But you'll notice two things, grid and level. And you want both of those on, grid and level. Okay? Now, and I'll show you what that means is when I go to take a picture, so here is, you'll notice on my screen, let me get to a black area. Oh, it's okay. So do you see the little line in the center? Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Well, that's the level now. And when it goes yellow, it's level. But oh, it went away. Well, that's because it was level. So you can see that it's level. Now, the other thing is this grid. And that was the other thing we turned on, and that's called the rule of thirds. So when you take a picture, the idea is that um, you know, if you center someone in a picture, it looks like a mugshot. But if you put them up in a kind of the up to the upper left or the upper right there, it makes it. So the grid is good, but the other one is this level. And it goes boom. The other thing that you can do is if I'm looking at, so if you look at my screen, I am now holding my phone down, and you'll notice this X, see the cross? Well, this is if I'm wanting to take a picture straight down. When the cross intersects, I am perfectly level up, and this is flat, perfectly flat.
Cool.
Okay.
Ken, you're so amazing. Thank you.
Well, it's Apple's amazing. I just kind of get it figured out sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Mary, go ahead with your question.
Okay, it's a simple one. I've got old earbuds. How long are they going to support them? Just the regular one. I've got the pros too, but
You mean
yeah.
ear earbuds and they have a wire on them?
No. They're the
Then they're
first.
AirPods
Okay,
if they're
AirPods.
wireless. I just wanted to be
No,
clarify.
good. Yeah.
So I don't know that they'll stop because just like we talked about hearing aids, it's Bluetooth.
Oh,
Now what happens though is, for instance, you guys, so the AirPods Pro, and this is a huge deal. So the AirPods Pro, in fact, let me because I know a lot of people have AirPods Pro. So let me just do one sec here. Let me get mine out of my pocket. I'll be right back.
well, he's gone. Anybody gonna come to the social? Harmon, Donna, Lisa?
I don't know any.
What, Harmon? You froze.
Oh, Christ.
Harmon froze. Oh no.
You put too much pressure on him.
I guess so. I didn't mean to, Harmon. So sorry.
Could you repeat the time?
Sure. It's at 11:30 at the Limelight on Alhambra. We'd love
On
to
on which day?
on Thursday, the 12th.
11:30. Oh, okay.
And it's you don't have to order anything. Everybody's on their own on that, and it's just going to be a get together.
Okay,
And
then
bring
where's
somebody if you want.
and it's the Limelight and it's on and where is it located?
Alhambra, right across
Okay.
from Safeway.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I will come.
Good, Donna.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm
And
planning to come, Mary.
oh, you are, Dennis? All right. Good. I thought you would.
Okay, so my phone's on the screen here, and I'm going to talk about AirPods Pro. So if I go to the phone and go to Bluetooth, you can see that I have
A few items.
what's that?
You in. Yeah.
All right.
You guys see my phone screen, right?
Mhm.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Oh, it switched to my AirPods for some reason here, which I didn't want it to. I want them to be not connected to the computer. So I'm gonna make the output there. Okay, somebody say something to make sure I got this working.
Yellow.
Okay, thanks. So if we look here, my Ken's AirPod Pro 2, this is the Bluetooth on my computer. Are you guys seeing my pink cursor or only the screen of my phone?
Both.
Okay, good. So when I go over here to where the eye is on the right side, when my AirPods are on, here's the options. Well, first of all, it shows the charge of the case. It shows the charge of my AirPods, the name of them. But there are three or more settings for noise cancellation. Okay. First is transparency. Now, this usually works when I have both, you usually have your AirPods in both ears. So what transparency does is it does some noise cancellation and especially lets me hear podcasts and things like that. But what it does is it allows other sounds to come through. So you're not completely isolated. Adaptive, on the other hand, what adaptive does is, and it's really weird, it does really good active noise canceling, but it listens for voices. So what happens is voices come through. And then the other level is total active noise canceling, which basically mutes out all other all other sounds. And how it works is, let's say you're on a plane and there's the hissing noise of the air going past and things like that. There's a little microphone that listens for that noise, and if it hears that constant noise, it will negate that by creating the opposite sound wave, and it really just it does a fantastic job. And you can see there's other things here about hearing health and the hearing test. And then you actually have the ability to, and I recommend, and I'm sure Al has posted all these things about AirPods Pro. And there's certain things here with AirPods Pro 2 that the one can't do. But you can control these different things. For instance, I can tell it on the left click, if I have the left one in, when I press it, what do I want to do? Do I want to activate activate Shlomo, or do I want it to do noise control? So in other words, you don't have to go into your settings every time. And then what happens is if it's noise control, you can press and hold the stem. And so there's a sensitivity on the stem of it to do it. And I encourage you these are very, very useful, and but a lot of people don't know these other settings. And I had a friend that was doing it going, oh yeah, but when people keep talking, it makes my music or my podcast go down. Well, yeah, that was because transparency, or I'm sorry, adaptive was on. So if you just want regular noise canceling, you go to that. So any questions on the AirPods Pro and AirPods Pro 2 in that case? Go ahead, Harmon, ask your question.
How many people actually use AirPods, earbuds, whatever? Put something in their ear as part of the iPhone experience.
I can't live without them. I have them in my pocket at all times. And I'll give you an example. I went in to pick up something at Home Depot yesterday. And I'm always, I mean, to me, there's not enough hours in a day. So I'm always listening to podcasts or music or things like that. And and again, if I go into Costco, I put one in one ear. Now that's the other thing is, I put one in one ear, so I'm well, first of all, you can drive like that, and that's legal. But if you put it in two ears, it's not legal, even though there is transparency mode, which would allow you to hear emergency vehicles and things like that. But um, and by having one ear, you can talk with people and do anything. And I can pause it. I can tap on it and have it pause a podcast, things like that. Plus, if calls come in, or it even reads me. If I get a text message, it will start to read me my text message. Or I use reminders a lot, and it will pop up and start to read my reminder. Now, let's say I'm walking around in Costco and a text message come in, it's going to be a long text message. I just quietly whisper and say the word cancel, and that will not, it won't continue to read that text message because I figure I'll read it later. Or if it's a reminder, you can just make it so saying the word cancel, and again, you say it very quietly, and it'll turn it turn that off. It won't delete it or anything else. But sometimes it'll say, do you want to reply to that text message? And you say yes, and then you just go ahead and do it. So it's beneficial in many, many, many ways. And And now with the added ability to do the hearing aid or to do things like that, I have to say, my quality of life has improved dramatically because of it. So feel free, anybody else pipe up. Want to hear from users, and there's probably other cases on it, but I absolutely love them.
I love my AirPods Max for travel. The noise cancellation on those things is
Well, now
incredible.
that's the Max. That's totally different. And what that is the over-the-ear ones. So, and there you wouldn't necessarily go around Costco with those on unless you're, well, I mean,
Hal might.
we're too old for that. But no, they're great. And what they have is actually what's called active noise canceling, and they have passive noise canceling because the cans, what they call those, that always gives a little bit of noise canceling, but then they still have active noise canceling. They're fantastic. But I have to admit, they're big, and I use them if I'm going to be on a long flight because the limit that you can have the AirPods in, it's 5 hours, and then you need to recharge them for 30 minutes, and then they go again. So if I'm on I'll be coming up, I'll be doing a 12-hour direct flight from Barcelona to Hong Kong, and I'll have my AirPods Pro Max on that. Well, I'm going to think about that because I'm trying to travel light, and luckily I still have my AirPods ones, so I can actually keep that charged doing that. So, and again, also the whole thing with the AirPods also is that it comes in a case, and you can see the case right here, and so the AirPods have their own battery. So one way to do this is if I'm wearing one AirPod, its battery life is about 5 hours. But the other one's still in the case because this case is in my pocket all the time. So if I'm out and about all day long and I hear a little beep beep, which tells me its battery's running out, and then it finishes, I simply take it out of my ear, I put it in the case, I take the one that's in the case and put it in my left ear, and I've got another 5 hours. But what happens is this one is inside this case, and the case has a battery, and it's charging the other AirPods Pro. So believe it or not, you could get 24 hours out of charge if you're using one at a time like that, back and forth. Okay. So then the beauty of this is the newest version of this doesn't have to have a cable. It can use a magnetic charger just like you charge the newer phones. So, it constantly does it, but it's got a cable on the bottom. It'll either use a lightning connector or a USB-C connector. And then you charge the case and it keeps going back and forth. So they're very functional. Size wise, this thing is it's about an inch tall and an inch and a half wide, and it's fantastic. Now, they do also have the iPod, the regular iPods, not Pro, AirPods, excuse me. Uh, and Al, doesn't the version 4 have noise canceling?
I think so. I think that capability was filtering down to those. If
Yeah.
not this generation, I would think that it'd be forthcoming.
Yeah, but I have a feeling it was in the force. You'd have to check on that. And it's less money. The pros are more expensive. And then you can see they have these little tips on them. And the way you do it is there are three sizes of tips, and they all come in when you buy it. It all comes with different tips, and it depends on the size of your ear canal. And actually, when you put them in your ear, you do what's called let's see if it says it here. Oh my gosh, I forgot about hand gestures. Well, what it does is here it is, ear tip fit test. So the first time you use them, you put them in and you put whichever one you think you should have in it. And these are on the pros. And you put it in your ear, and it will send out some noise, and because it's a microphone and a speaker, it listens to see if there's any sound leaking that would tell you that the tip is not the right tip. It's just it's this is truly an Apple product in how Apple does things. It's just phenomenal, and they last for a long time. So, um, Barbara, is your question about the AirPods Pro?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I have a question. I was just following what you were doing, and I've got my AirPods Pro not in, but the case is nearby. But on my phone, it says not connected. Is it only
Right.
supposed to be connected if you're wearing them?
Well, yeah, what'll happen is you need to put one in one ear, but it's going to change some different things, and that's why I did it. And then of course my computer took over and put the AirPods in there, but that's why I did what I did, because they're in other words, what happens is when you have the case closed, and so if you open the lid on the case without putting them in your ear, it should work.
Not yet.
Well, and then what
There it
happens is,
goes. There it goes. It just took a minute. Yeah.
yeah, and what happens is it pops up and immediately shows you the charge on the screen of your phone, which is very Apple-like.
Yeah.
It shows you what your charging case battery level is and what the AirPods Pro battery level is. And
Where's
now you
that?
should be able to see your different settings.
Where's that? If I tap on AirPods Pro, is that what it?
So let's go back a screen on my phone. So does yours say connected now under Bluetooth?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so tap the eye, the blue eye to the right.
Got it.
And then when you hit the blue eye, it gives you the information. Because if you just tap on it, it's going to try connect. But the
Okay.
eye is the information and all these settings. I mean, spatial audio, microphone. This hand gestures, I forgot about that, but yeah, it can pick up. It's weird. So,
And noise control, when it mine says off, is that the same thing as noise canceling?
where is noise control?
Mine is, it's right by my name.
Right there.
Where it says AirPods Pro. I'm below that on my phone.
And does it have transparency and adaptive?
No, it has transparency. I see transparency, noise cancellation, and then it has something which is off. And let me see what happens if I turn it on.
Oh,
No.
I'm saying noise control. Yeah, that is the overall title of transparent. You probably don't have adaptive. I think adaptive is, do you have adaptive on yours?
No, I just have a thing that
Yeah,
says
that means
transparency and
it's the
noise.
Pro 2, because adaptive is the one where it will sense speech. And by the way, the rumors are that we think maybe in 2, but in the AirPods Pro 3, you will be able to do live language translation on the fly.
Wow.
You would speak it and they speak back to you, and it would read to you the actual translation.
Hey, Ken,
Yeah,
you were asking before about the AirPods 4. They do have active noise cancellation.
right, but probably not adaptive. So,
I see. I'm looking at the spec sheet. And it says adaptive audio.
oh, okay, good.
Uh,
Yeah, adaptive is good. Thanks, Al, very much.
yeah.
Okay, any other earpods questions? And earbuds are essentially the wired ones, and then the AirPods are the ones that have a little longer stem on them and don't have the soft one there. And then the AirPods Pro, the original ones, don't have the hearing aid capability, but the AirPods Pro do. Okay,
Yes, Barbara, I have another question.
go for it.
Down below where it says left and right, it says call controls, and it says answer call, press once. Press what once?
Uh, Hang on. Answer calls, press once.
Press what?
You, I'm not sure. You either squeeze the you squeeze the part sticking down or you tap it once. But I
Okay,
think it's now you take the part that comes down and you squeeze that. And what it
okay,
does, it's actually, it's not a click or anything. It senses your it's a capacitive discharge just like your screen.
okay.
And I'm sure Al has posted a thing about all the, because I don't even use all of it. So, oh, and if you'll notice here, I turned off conversation awareness because that was really weird. I'd be walking around Costco, and if somebody nearby, and it would be, I mean, it's somebody that's not near me, but it picks up conversation and it would lower my volume. And
Huh.
so that was disconcerting. And so I turned off conversation awareness. It's on by default. So automatic ear detection, that just means when you put it in, it senses that it's in your ear. And so the beauty is if you just take it and set it down on the counter or something like that, it'll automatically shut it off so that it saves battery. They are, I'll tell you, I think it's one of Apple's finest engineering feats. Okay. Anything else on the AirPods? I know we spent a lot of time on it, but I really believe in these.
I
And
posted some stuff in there, Ken. Mary was Mary was asking about the life of the set of AirPods, and so there's some information in there about lithium battery life and what you can expect.
Oh, I didn't even think about the battery life, but
Yeah,
yeah, I was
yeah,
just wondering how long they'd be supported, but I guess there's nothing really to change. They
yeah,
just that Bluetooth connection. So until the battery goes, they're
yeah,
probably fine
and
because they're
lithium,
years old now.
yeah,
yeah, and
lithium,
the batteries last pretty well, but obviously what'll happen is you just won't have as long a life.
yeah,
But and then it's not to say I don't think they replace the batteries in them, but believe it or not, the case can be replaced also. And by the way, so uh if you lose one, they will you can buy just one because you're buying when you're buying it, you're buying a case
yeah.
and two of them. So if you lose one, they'll sell you one at a, at less than half price or half price. And what I do is because of skiing and things like that, I'm concerned with losing them. So
Right.
I have, and in fact, I'll bring it up on my screen to show you because I think it's super important. Let me unshare my phone. And actually, I'm going to get that out of my
Hey,
ear. And I want to show you. Uh, I get a leash that goes around your neck because, and I don't use it all the time, but especially when I'm skiing, because those bloody white AirPods in the snow would very, very, very hard to find. And they would burrow down to the bottom. So
They have so many colors of phones. Why wouldn't they have colored AirPods?
because it's white, it's Apple, and from a retail aspect, why have more numbers for parts by doing that? That's why they don't.
Ken, that leads to the question, like I picked up some cheap, cheap kind of for when I'm out in case I lose them, because it's been known to happen. Did they respond to,
Yes.
okay.
No, no, go ahead. Do they
No, did
the
they?
Find My works, but the problem is it's
Yeah,
only within Bluetooth range,
yeah.
and it's kind of hard to because it doesn't have its own cellular connection. So
But I mean, the settings that you make for AirPods, does that impact things like these? An alternative brand.
well, no, it's simply Bluetooth.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and what I should say is there's also another brand. If these don't fit you well, Apple owns Beats. And the Beats ones, and I'll bring up a picture, actually have a loop that goes on the inside part of your ear that makes it so they're less likely to come out. And by the way, you can't swim in these, but in fact, you can sweat and everything else. But I love a leash like this because this leash is magnetic and you wear it like that, and if the AirPod falls out, it usually falls to the front. And so it's kind of, and it just slips over it. Now, obviously, you can't put it in the case, but this is it's a silicon and it just goes right in there. So let's go and let's look at the Beats earbuds. So, oh, they might not have. Here we go. So here's like the Power Beats. So you'll see, and this one, it goes around the ear on the top. That's one. And then they have another one that goes. Oh, that one doesn't. Okay. I thought they had one that kind of. There is one that where the loop goes kind of inside the ear too. But anyway, Beats is an Apple brand and they have the same connectivity and things like that.
And they come in colors.
Yeah, they come in colors, yeah, because it's Beats. And neither of these are cheap. And all I can say is you will have these for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The functionality of the AirPods Pro, you're less likely to have buyer's remorse. That's all I can say.
One thing.
Armin, Father's Day is coming up, right?
Yeah. One thing that's nice on this cheap little, throwaway, if you will, they tell you how much everything is charged on the cover. It's just right there, which is a nice feature I wish Apple would include.
Well, there's talk of there'll be a screen on the new one and you play right from the case on the new one. But in fact, all you do is on the AirPods Pro, if you flip the case open, it pops up on your phone and tells you right away. So yeah, it's and to be honest, battery life is not something you worry about that much on them. So anyway, I can't speak highly enough of those. All right. So any other technical questions for anything before we dive in? And unfortunately, Pete had a schedule change where he had to fly out to a meeting earlier than expected. So I was a last minute substitution, but I want to follow through with AI and I want to do some real world AI stuff. So because I think he set the stage so well on what is AI,
Yeah.
but where I want to get in and let you guys experience it and see some different things. And I've had some awakenings recently with it too. So any other technical non-AI questions before we go forward? Okay. And feel free as we go along if there's any questions. So I'm going to go to, I have an account with Grok, so I'm going to use that. Pete likes Chat GPT. I like Chat GPT, which is OpenAI, but I have an account, but I don't have a paid account with them. So Grok can be gotten a couple ways. First, you can go to x.com, which is the old Twitter, and it's right over here in that. Or you can go to grok.com in the browser, any browser, and you have to sign up for an account and you go through some stuff, but you can get a free account. The limitations of a free account is you get a limited number of inquiries and you may be on an older version of Grok. But that's how all of them work. And you know what? I'll bring up a slide too because I think Grok is great for most stuff, but it's not the best for images and things like that. Grok does keep your history, which is great, as does ChatGPT. And I'll go into a little more detail on that. Now, on your iOS devices, there is a Grok app and there is a x.com app, and you can get to Grok both of those ways, but you can still get to it in the browser if you want. But again, the app is the best way because you can have it open, and like Pete mentioned during the class last 2 Wednesdays ago, was you can just have it and a conversation. You can go back and forth live with voice. So, excuse me, I did something. Let me go into my history. Let's see. Here's my history. And I did one. I'm looking for it here. I actually had it look at a picture. Oh, yeah, I had a picture of, because I'm doing this round the world trip, and it was in Indonesia. I had it say, well, I said this picture and where is it and stuff like that. Let's see. All right, I'll kind of start out with a real interesting one that for me, and what I want you guys to do is think of some questions you would like to have me give to Grok. But this was one where so I have an inflammation disease that I've been suffering with for a year and a half, and I'm on the downswing of it, and I'm getting off some of my medications. So I want to reduce the inflammatory foods I have. So I asked it this question, and I mean, I was just, many of this was a challenge. Can you make a keto diet recipe suggestion guideline using mainly salmon with some chicken or shrimp as the protein? Exclude cauliflower and green beans, which I'm not favorites of those. So I said that. I said, I love mushrooms, onions, garlic, ginger, mini peppers, jalapenos, medium hot spice. I want to focus on low inflammation foods and need to limit carbs. I know this is restrictive, but I know you can do it. It's mostly microwave or air fry, but I can barbecue, pan fry, or sous vide. I will likely use intermittent fasting at the same time. If if I find a meal I like, I'm fine with doing that daily. So it comes up with different things, and it went through here, and it reiterated what I asked it, and then it talked about some guidelines. It'll aim for 5 carbs less per serving, etc. And then it gave me some recipes, and it was fantastic. Well, then what happened is I went through that and I saw those, and I forgot. I use asparagus in my meals, and so I went down here and it gave me air fry, microwave, different ways to do it. And this was just, and I was very good. So here was my next part of it. So I said that, great, I'll look into that to determine, because it asked me, do you want more recipes? Well, I hadn't had a chance to really look through them yet. So I said, great, I'll look into it to determine the focus. Thanks. And I forgot to mention, because when it came up and said use olive oil, I actually use avocado oil from Costco because it has a higher flash point. And I just spray it on my air fry items rather than saturating it in oil. And it says, what implications, good or bad, will that have on our goals, right? It and me, I put. And then also, I forgot to mention to please include asparagus as my main veggie. So then it said, okay, well, the implications of avocado oil. One was it has a few more calories and some other things, but by spraying it, it puts it down. And then the asparagus, the good impacts, it'll slightly up the carbs, but it's really good for anti-inflammatory and things like that. So, and then again, it modified the recipes, now including it. So tonight, well, I'll try my first one. So anyway, um, and you can further refine that. So to me, this is a whole nother way to do AI. Um, there were a couple of us, I'll go back into my history again, and we were looking, oh, I was looking for, so in this round the world trip I'm doing with a friend of mine, we were doing a Zoom yesterday to determine the last part of our trip, which is where we go from Auckland, New Zealand to Sydney, and then we go to Manila for a few days. And we couldn't find online a hop on, hop off bus route for Manila. And so I asked it to do it, and it did it. And then about the elephant experience. Uh, let's see. Oh, budget. Oh, this was a good one. So to start the great race, I meet my best friend Brent. He lives in Zephyr Cove up in Tahoe, and we put the MG car in a enclosed trailer, and we are hauling it to St. Paul, Minnesota. And I'm meeting him in Reno. So the easiest way to get to Reno for me is I'm getting a one-way rental car from Rockland, near Lincoln, where I live. And from Rockland, I'll drop it off at Reno, and he'll be there with the trailer, and we start our journey. So I know that I get corporate codes on other places. So I said, well, I just said search for budget rental car discount codes. And I put in this second discount code and I got 35% off. So again, it's AI and it's like search, but this goes out and searches. How many did it go look at? It looked at 25 web pages to come up with this information. So, and I used that code and it worked. I used the second one because I figured I wasn't sure if the one looked a little weird and they said it was like a 7-digit code. So anyway, I used that and it worked and it got me a discount. I did ask it to shop for uh, one-way rentals, and it was not very good. But I got to tell you, there was an amazing thing here. This was incredible. So out here for the Lincoln Hills Apple user group, I developed with two other people added to it. We wanted to survey our audience because there's like 1,400 members, and we wanted to see the whether they're mostly Mac, mostly iPhone, what things they wanted. So I asked Zoom, and I didn't bring this up earlier, but let me pull it up. I will go to the survey and let's see, LHAUG. Did the survey. No, it's already closed. So let me do this. Let me go into the form. So I went in and I did a survey. I created a web form, which is free in Google. And I asked Grok to create a survey questions, okay? So it came up with a bunch of stuff, and then I built the survey. Just different things. Excuse me. And it was really good. I said we were a senior Apple group. It's very same demographic we have for ours here. And I asked it to build me the question. So I had to build the form myself. But then we got these responses and all these responses, and I've shared it with the board actually yesterday. But you can see it's really kind of tedious to do all this. So this can be output as a spreadsheet. So in this spreadsheet, I had it output to the spreadsheet, which even less, it's more murky. Okay, these are all the questions, these are all the answers, all that. Well, it's kind of like it's really just a bunch of data. Well, what do you do with it? So I had the bright idea to say, look, why don't I have it analyze it? And I decided to have it, let me find open recent. So I put the spreadsheet, I uploaded the spreadsheet to Grok, and I asked it to analyze that spreadsheet. And this is what it came back with. It summarized it. It took all the data and it summarized it right here. Interesting fact about the Tuesday meeting versus this, the iPhone, the ownership. It built these charts and then it came up with this conclusion, which was great. And I did not manipulate this at all. It was straight out of it. And then it gave me a page of what the demographics were. At median age, 78. Device ownership, 95. Oh, and by the way, out of 1,400 people, we had 127 respond is all. We're going to up that later. But to me, this saved me so much work, but it also made it much more presentable. And these were the first shot on it. I didn't ask it to fully refine it because it was perfect. And Grok did this by simply having me upload the information from this spreadsheet. It analyzed all that data. So I don't know if you guys are as blown away with that as I am, but
How do you update? I mean, how do you upload it to Grok?
so great question. So if I go back to Safari and I go to my, well, where was, oh, Grok's here. Here we go. So in Grok, right down here, it says attach. So very similar how you upload photos. I took the spreadsheet, obviously I downloaded the spreadsheet to my computer, and then it said add, upload a file. And I went to the spreadsheet, which was, oh, right here. Here's a CSV file, okay? Those were the responses right there. So it was only a 100 kilobyte file. And I did that and told it to attach it. And then let me see what in my history, what I asked it. Let's see here. That's my history. I said, can you analyze the results of this web form? Well, what happened is I had a link to the spreadsheet, and for some reason, permissions wise, it couldn't get in there. So then I tried again. Oh, that didn't work. So then I went again and please share the data. Boom. Thank you for sharing the link. However, I can't get it. So I kept trying. I did one more try. Thanks again. Still not able to. And I finally went down here, and here's where it says, could you share the summary data? And I think I used Grok to find out what to do it. But here, I ended up, this is the actual, I uploaded it to Grok. It's the first time I've uploaded related to it. So then it went through here and it says, okay, here's my analysis plan, and it's telling you what it's doing while it's doing it. And then I'm sure I could have adjusted the bar graphs and all that, but I really was very happy with what it came back with. And I didn't further do it anymore. So, and then here's the report. And all I did is in the report here, this little green pie chart about the level of comfort with iOS devices was below onto the next page. So I just cut and pasted in pages to move it up here. So I only had 2 pages because this conclusion was an orphan on its next page. So I just manually That's the only thing I did was moved it up so I had just 3 solid pages. But I mean that I I look like a hero. And when I shared it with the board yesterday, it was like I said, look, you guys, here it is, and I used AI for all of it. So the survey itself, the questions, the majority of the questions, I would say 85% of the questions on the survey were done by AI. There were some I deleted, and then we added, the three of us that were doing this added a couple more to it. But the outcome, I just used this. And I mean, there's just so many things that you can do with it.
That was impressive, I have to say.
Well, thank you. I mean, I wish I could take credit for it.
Well, you can take a little. Yeah.
I am. I mean, and it just came upon me because I'm looking at the survey and I'm going, well, I can analyze this. And I'm going, well, hell, why, anyway, Harmon, ask your question. Good question, Mary.
Okay, so when you are up to 600 responses, one of the great things with a spreadsheet is you can plug in the new things and the formulas will respond to that. If you plug in the new data into your spreadsheet, will that create a new analysis, or are you going to have to resend the spreadsheet to Grok?
Well, I would have to re-upload it. So basically the way it works is now actually good. So here's the deal. Because that spreadsheet is in one of the accounts that the Lincoln Hills Apple user group has, for some reason it was hard for me to be able to give other people access to that spreadsheet, okay? Because the sheet is in Google Sheets. So the survey, web form survey, outputs in you can just see the results. In fact, I'll go back to that because if I look at results, there's charts here and everything. This is on it. But if I it's if I this thing I'd have to it just doesn't present itself well. Each of the charts are really good, but I mean copying and pasting and doing all this. So what I did is I forwarded this to everybody first so they had it. And then what I did here is I can take and create a Google Sheet from here automatically. A Google Sheet is a spreadsheet, but it's online. The problem I had was for some reason, and I didn't want to I didn't want to spend the time. I for some reason was not able to get the spreadsheet unprotected so that Grok could access it. If I had spent the time, I could have had Grok have access to it. And so I could just now tell Grok, okay, go reanalyze the spreadsheet. I would, at this point, if I add 600 more people to it, I would have to download it and tell it to reanalyze it. So that's a little bit manual, but it was only through my inability to share this spreadsheet so Grok could access it. Does that make sense?
That's why Grok kept telling you, I can't get it. I can't get it. Try
Right.
again. Oh, okay.
And so then what I did is I said, well, enough of this. I don't know. I mean, I have full access to this account, but it was something. So I said, I'm not going to worry about that. I can download it to my computer. I had enough permission to do that. And then I just told Grok to go pick it up. So I would download a new version and do it. It would do the same thing. But it was funny because we talked about this. We were really perplexed that we only had 100. I think we just didn't hit email enough to tell people. But what we're going to do in the future is whenever a member renews, we're going to give them the option to go right to the survey. And I think that'll help. But the thing is that realistically, the 127 people that responded, you're probably going to get a pretty good cross section, and it statistically would not be that much different. But yeah, we were all perplexed that we only got 127, and 20 of those are the volunteers and people on the board. So Anyway, and I may do the same thing for our MacNexus group too. So to me, it's just a great implementation. And I just, this was less about the survey and what it could do. So, let's see. Oh, here was one. So on the Great Race, we wear these things called a cool shirt, which is it's a t-shirt that has tubes through it, and we essentially have an ice box with cold water in it that circulates through this to keep us cool, because there's some very hot things and you're inside in a car and everything. So I just said, well, how do you clean the tubes because it's been sitting for a year? And they just said, a certain amount of bleach and all this, and it went out and found it. So Donna, go ahead and ask your question.
I just put a question into MacNexus that was quite different. If you want to, you asked.
Is it in the chat?
Yes, in MacNexus.
Okay, let me go grab it and I'll copy and paste it in. So hang on one sec.
It's different.
No, that's fine. Well, as long as it's legal. Let's see here. How long ago did you put it? Let's see, Donna.
At 10:30.
Okay, let me go back. Al's got so many great links here of just about Grok. And
It was,
10:30, you said?
yeah, it was before he put anything.
Okay. Oh, here it is. All right. Write a humorous story. Yes. Okay. So I will do that. Hang on. So I will go into Grok here and I'm going to tell it to do a new chat. And I'm used to using it. I'm going to switch to private chat because I don't want it. This one, I don't want it to use but I guess it does my history. Well, we'll see. Doesn't matter. So, write a humorous story set in the backyard about adventures of an active dog named Skittles, a mischievous squirrel, and a waterfall.
And also you might say, limit it to a page and a half or something like that, maybe.
Limit
it to, or maybe not, I don't know.
Limit to 2 pages. How's that?
Okay.
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 So it's thinking. The Great Backyard Caper. And by the way, on your iOS device, this could read it to you. Now this Skittles, the floppy-eared mutt. And actually, what I'll do, why don't I can paste this into chat.
Okay.
When it's done here.
Okay.
Actually, let's say I'm going to say limit to 1 page. Or you can do summarize. Let's do that. Let's take our 2 pages and say summarize. So look how quick that is. And I will copy that and put that in the main chat. And then I'll copy this one and put it in the main chat. Uh-oh, that exceeded it. Word count. Wait, hold on. Message have a limit of 1,000 characters. But it says, it's word count. It's not characters. So I'm going to not do that one. It's, yeah, so it was 1,000. So I'll say limit it, limit to I'll say 2,500 characters. Let's see if it can do that. Look at that. It's going to do it because the chat window only allowed us like 3,000 or no, maybe it was 1,000. Let's see. So there it's done it. Let me copy that. Character count. Look at that, 1998. It's 1,000. Oh, sorry. We'll do it limit to 1,000. And obviously characters are spaces and everything. Oh, did it do, it did it, it did it 544. So let's take this a step farther. And I hope everybody else is thinking of good questions to give it and we can dig deeper. Okay, that's in the chat. But I'm going to say now, create a picture of this story. I think I may have to do it. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Come on. So there's and this is funny. Look at this, the dog with Skittles on it, and the squirrel with Skittles floating in there. I'll copy that and see if it'll post in chat. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Copy image. I'm not sure it'll post in chat. We'll try. Yeah. And then you could adjust the images. So that's a great little exercise. I love it. And then you could add things to it and things like that. So good job, Donna. And your hand's still up, or did I not put it down yet? You're muted.
Thank you. You answered it. Thank you.
So any other questions anybody wants for Grok? Let's ask it, what is MacNexus?
I was gonna say, I think what was nice about Pete's thing was his very that display of like getting to the coffee shop. I'm trying to think of and how in the example of using it in analyzing insurance or something. I'm trying to think of questions that would be applicable to a lot of us about real world, financial things, or I don't even know what else. So that's where everybody comes in. What could they, as opposed to like I mean, that was fun. Don't get me wrong. I like that.
Well, yeah, but it's for me, and look at this. Here was it found MacNexus by visited 10 websites and came up with that, and it just pulled it from the page. But for me, it started out with search on steroids, okay?
Okay.
But I think now I think you have to think about the things that it can do for you. And that, I think the survey is a perfect example. It built the survey. And I tweaked it. I mean, it gave me questions. I said, in fact, let's go back to building the survey and ask the question
I mean, that was phenomenal, but I'm not building surveys anymore.
No, but
You know what I mean?
but you need to take, not that you're building a survey, it was
Oh,
I mean, it's writing a letter, and Apple is integrating and we'll find out they're going to get better with the with their AI.
Yeah.
But here was one.
I can see something as I'm thinking about it, something like I need to renew my homeowner's insurance. What factors should I consider? And
Perfect.
That kind of a thing. But I can see that's coming from your idea of the survey and just giving the outline.
Well, yeah, and what I find myself is I start to go to use a Google search, and then I go, because when I go to look at Google search, I look at the top websites, and then I dig into a website, then I go, okay, this one has more, and keep going back and forth. Well, what AI will do is go search not just the websites I normally would show up, it'll be even others, but then it'll even summarize it for me. And then I can dig further because I can go see the links. But the best part is I can further refine it. Let's go back to the recipe. I had forgotten avocado oil and I forgot asparagus, so I kept adding. And I'll give you an example. And this happened years ago. There's an app that's called SoundHound. And I remember when I was doing dictation and Shlomo with it, I used that one and I said, find me a hotel for next Tuesday in Lake Tahoe under $200. And it came up. And I said,
I like
with
that.
free parking. Then I added with free breakfast. Then I added with a pool. Then I added pet friendly. And so, many times when you do a search, your results, like happened with me when it mentioned olive oil, I forgot that I didn't mention avocado oil. So it spurs on more things. And the best thing is it remembers it. And I'll bring up one that I did earlier, but this was one I said so we're going, when we get done in Sydney, we're going to Tasmania and we're not using an organized tour. So I said, give me a best 1 or 2 day Tasmania itinerary for seniors with moderate walking, no museums, because we're okay on museums, and no cooking classes. So it came up with that. And then I could further refine it.
Great example, Ken. I appreciate you kind of going in real worldy kind of things. I think the survey's great, and some people like are on church boards and may need that kind of thing too. But this helps at least me think through how you could use it. I like the example of the hotel and how you continue to refine it. And that's how you start learning to use AI, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and to me the survey it had the oh wow factor of what it can do analysis wise.
Mm-hmm.
So and I was driving the other day and I I used the voice in my car and I said chemtrails, myth or reality. And I had it give me, I'm just it was for fun and
Yeah.
it did it and I said and and then I asked, with the collapse of the Twin Towers, all that, and it comes up, and it just, it to me, it was fun. So now I was also looking for a bolt because I knew we used a 14 millimeter wrench, but I didn't have the bolt with me. Well, what's the typical size for that? Because I had to stop by a hardware store to bolt our race seats down. So let's go back here. There was
14 millimeters is not
I'm
normal.
sorry, what?
14 millimeters is not normal.
No, it was the head.
I understand.
I knew I had
14
a socket, and it turns out I ended up getting way too big a bolt. But yeah, but it told me that it was typically 12 millimeter. No, I'm sorry. It was typically an 8 millimeter bolt is what M8 would be the typical size with a 14 millimeter head. But anyway.
Yeah, I was a BMW technician and we never used a 14 millimeter wrench.
Well, but we're on an MG and we have Whitworth, we have Whitworth, SAE, and metric. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, I had to search for rebates. Partners of that. Oh, here was, let's see, what was I'll put in Bend because this was a good one. Okay, so on my way to Bend, Oregon, I knew there were some waterfalls on the way. So I said, give me, oh gosh. And at the same time, I was planning pizza for our ski club and how many pizzas do I need for 26 seniors, you know? And let's see, where was the Bend? Oh, so this was seeing the waterfalls on the way up. So regarding McLeod Falls, best site upper or lower, and how easy is it to get there? Things like that. But I wanted to find my Bend, Oregon. Best photographic spots around Bend, Oregon with limited mobility. And in March. And I went through it and it just found all kinds of stuff. So let's see. Does anybody have any questions they are interested in? It's let's see. Oh, let's ask about what are the rumors about Apple AirPods Pro 3? Now, it's doing searching, and then I'll show you what deep search is after that. They point to several potential upgrades. Release date expected to launch in 2025. The new H3 chip. Now, the H3 is the chip inside the device that makes it connect really well to the Apple stuff almost automatically. ANC active noise canceling and better there. So they went out and they saw 15 posts, posts on X and 21 web pages. And it can ask to search deeper. So I'll show you that in a second. So went through, and then if you'll notice, everything here has like this one. That one was on Reddit. If I go here, this one was on YouTube. And so I can click on those links to where it got that information. And obviously you can drill down further. Now, I'm going to say deep search. And now it's going to take longer. That other one was fast, but it will dig deeper into sources. And you'll see here, it's going to come up with some more info. It might not be better info because, again, it's on rumor. And the other big news coming up with WWDC that starts this week is all of our OSs now will be OS 26 for next year. Okay, where we have Mac OS is one version, it's on what, 15 or something, and iOS is on 18, and tvOS is on a different one. They're putting all of those together. So, and Al, rather than just Grok, I mean, do some overall and OpenAI stuff too, because I'm using Grok because all the AIs are pretty similar, but it's the one I have fairly good access to, and when you do a lot of searches, it's just good. So you'll notice what I really like here now. It's made a summary table of. So I did deep search and it took 50 seconds. Okay, so it took a little longer, and it was thinking, searching, and it came through. It's got some Mark Gurman, it's good. Key points, talks about pricing. Then if we go down here, it's got more and more info. And then I really like that it puts it here into a chart for you. It's a table, I should say, not a chart. And then it now gives you the different ones. I've never heard of years ago I heard of Apple Track and don't know Zolotech and stuff. So that's all there. Oh, and gosh, there's even deeper search. Mary, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, now that I blanked on it, oh gosh, I forgot.
So I'll ask Grok, what was Mary's question?
Yeah, please do. Oh, geez. I should have written it down.
Yeah, it'll come to you.
It
Tell
will.
me about, and this I'm curious too, Apple OS 26.
Oh, I remember.
Okay.
I have an iPhone 14, so I can't get AI, on that. But can you get it on your Mac, even if on your desktop?
Great question. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So the deal is Apple has what's called Apple Intelligence or Apple AI. And frankly, at this point, it is not very intelligent. Okay. It uses ChatGPT, but it uses it terrible. There's great potential in here. And going forward, once AI, so we're putting information in and we're getting information back. But what if you think about when AI really comes to fruition, the AI inside of our iPhone will allow you to say things like one of our first questions of today is, how do I get that little line to level my photo? Well, if AI is working correctly, it will not only tell you what to do, it will go into your phone and reach in and bring up that screen or even just set it for you. Okay? That's the future. And it's not going to take too long to get there. So if you think about how useful that is, now all of a sudden, Pete McDonough doesn't have to wait till Ken's in a class to ask that question. He asks it of his phone. Now, we could go into AI and it'll give us a description, but the step beyond that is for it to take our device and change that just because we said, "Hey, how can I level up my phone?" And boom, it'll know what you want. It goes out and searches it, and then it just does it. Now, that is where we're going. We're definitely not there yet. But that question could be asked of AI and it'll come up and give you directions on how to do it. I mean, that's the perfect example. So it will also help with AI, because what AI does is it's not just, this is called the large language large language module, LLM is what we're doing. We're doing hyper search here, but we need to take it a little farther. And like, for instance, when I was searching for photo locations in Bend for the lunar eclipse, and at the time I said with limited mobility, the rest of the time when I search for places, like when I went to Lake Tahoe to photograph the Milky Way, it found me places with limited mobility. In other words, that I didn't have to hike a quarter mile to take shots from. Now, it let me know just very subtly that it's close by, not much of a walk. So it didn't say, "Hey, I'm limiting your mobility," but it remembered it. And so let's just say that I now have a considerably more mobility than I did. I can say, well, I'm okay. But like for this trip that I'm planning, this round the world thing, I put in there for seniors because then it does it and it knows that it's gonna be less of that, and it remembers it. Again, you end up developing a personality with it, and you can tell it to refine that personality. But this will be good because for hearing impaired or for sight impaired, it will be able to adapt things for that. But I think it's tying the AI into the mechanical part of it, and I mean the humanoid robots are on the very near horizon, and that humanoid robot, they're learning to do tasks by watching other people, or I should say, not other people, excuse me. The robot has cameras and it learns by watching people do a task. And so think about this. How do children learn? They learn by watching and then by doing, right? And sometimes just by doing. And, they usually only touch that hot burner one time because they learn. Well, the robots learn, but what's interesting about it is the computer inside the robot is limited, just like the young child's brain is limited. But if an adult or someone else is teaching the child, they're using both of those brains and they're using the experience of the other person to help teach the child. The same thing happens with the humanoid robots. The robot itself is learning what it needs to do. Lift this box and put it over here. If it's a green one, put it in this pile, etc. So, but there's a huge supercomputer behind the scenes that needs to analyze this. So the robot watches what a worker does that's teaching the robot. They're not necessarily teaching the robot directly. The robot is watching what happens, and the robot then sends that information to this huge computer cluster that then analyzes that and then sends the smaller amount of data that's needed for the robot to replicate what the person did. Now, in some cases, simple movements of an arm and things like that, the robot could do inherently on its own. But what's called machine learning is still dependent on a huge, very powerful computer cluster. So, and that's called machine learning. And I give you the example of that's what makes it so. I drove to Fallon, Nevada recently. Well, I didn't drive, excuse me. My car drove me the entire way. I had no critical interactions and interventions. I only had to intervene one time because it was going slow around traffic that I knew I could go a little different way and I did it. But other than that, I did not have to touch the brake, the accelerator, or the steering wheel the entire trip. And that's because the cameras in the car. So if you think about a car in this whole machine learning aspect, in a car, for all intents and purposes, to control the car, you have an accelerator, you have a brake, and you have a steering wheel. Those are the three things you need to do to control a car, right? I'm not saying forget eyes and all that other stuff, but the actual controls. So what happens is Tesla takes and they know where how far you're putting your foot on an accelerator. They know how far you're putting on the brake pedal. They know how much you're steering the steering wheel. because those are all electronically done, so therefore they can quantify it. In fact, most cars now have that in the little black box on the computer, because if there's an accident, they can tell steering angle, they can tell different things like that. So what happens is that information and the fact that my car has 8 cameras, 3 pointing forward, 2 on the sides, two of those pointing back, and 4 on the sides actually, and then 1 in the rear. So it says, when this car approaches a red octagonal sign that has the word stop in it, what did the driver do? Well, 99.999% of the drivers took their foot off the accelerator and put their foot on the brake pedal. So AI, the big master computer, all that information gets sent from the car back to the big main computer, and it looks at the video and determines what the drivers did. And not just one driver, 1,000,000 miles were actually, right now it's up to 2 million miles of data a day it's capturing. And so what it's saying is, what did people do? And it's amazing. It says it. And now what it says, it sends information back to my car when the car gets a software update, just like your phone gets a software update. It now says, if the video sees a red octagonal sign with the word stop in it, it puts it steps on the brake for you. Okay? Now, there's always edge cases. What if a truck in the meantime has hit this octagonal sign and one corner is all bent? Well, it learns, because if I do a disengagement and it doesn't happen to see a stop sign, it sends that information to Tesla, and the main computer says, "Oh, here's an anomaly. Okay, now we've adjusted for that. If it's a sign that's bent over or things like that, it looks for that." And what happens is, it's gotten it down now. So as of the beginning of this year, the accidents per hundreds of thousands of miles, if you're in self-driving, it's 8.5 times safer than a regular driver. Now, that sounds absurd, but it's true, because we have 2 eyes, and our eyes are generally looking in the same direction. My car has 8 external cameras, and they're all looking in different directions, and the computer can analyze it the whole time. The example is, if I'm driving along, obviously you usually have a blind spot on the right side. Well, what if there's a car in that blind spot and it starts to come over? I can't see it, and I would get run into. Well, in fact, the cameras, there's 2 cameras that would get it. The one camera facing essentially where the rearview mirror is, and then there's one on the B pillar sticking straight out that sees it, and it senses it, and it makes the car avoid that side swipe. So that's a case where the cameras and the computer do better than you can. And so in that case, you're less likely to get in a wreck, because it's almost like having 8 people in the car, everyone's looking a different direction and ready to react for you. So it's amazing. But the statistics prove that over hundreds of thousands of miles, you are 8.5 times less likely to get in an accident while driving on full self-driving than the actual population normally does in a regular situation. But I got to tell you, those statistics are a little skewed, because I use it even on city streets all the time. But the majority of people that use full self-driving are kind of only using it on major roads. And more accidents happen on less roads than other. But when you take the total miles, it's 8.5 times. So I would say that the 8.5, and actually I think it's up over 10 now. But it just gives you an idea, and people are afraid of it. But it was stated years ago that once it's been proven that autonomous driving is 10 times safer than someone driving, people will finally accept it. So, but again, that's AI learning. We talk about the robots learning, and the hardest thing for robots is like getting the robot to be able to pick up an egg without breaking it, without breaking the shell, things like that. But they're working on that, and it's incredible. And I mean, think about as we get older, you've got a robot that could cook for you, that could pick up, that can vacuum. We already have robotic vacuums, but we've got ones that can go do the laundry. They'll be able to do the laundry for you, and it doesn't mean you have to get a different washing machine, because it knows, boom, go press this button and do this setting. It's not like you have to get all these automated things. And believe it or not, I think about this is I'm talking about a self-driving car, but if the robot got good enough, that robot could go sit in your car and drive your car for you. Now, I'm not saying that's the safest way to go, because the robot will probably only have two cameras, and they're probably like us looking in one direction. So the self-driving car itself is going to be more safe than the robot. I threw a lot out there. Is that, I mean, please, if there's any questions on it, this is the time to ask. Harmon, go for it.
A lot of this is based on these repeated experiences. I mean, we'll say that the car is experiencing this, right? I mean, seeing the stop sign, seeing the bent stop sign. So
yes,
repeated experiences. Well, what about exploring? Is the AI going to, I mean, it's got all this knowledge of what it knows, what it's experienced. But what about going somewhere where it doesn't have all of that data? Is it going to be able to kind of extrapolate from what it knows, even though it's in a new environment?
Great question. But first of all, I need to clarify. The car is not learning. And
AI's learning back at the
right, but I want to make that clear,
brain.
because my car does not learn. My car is given it's given information on how it should react in certain situations, and but it in itself is not learning, and that's good, because there could be a disconnect there. But the example is, and this is well, we'll talk about the car example, then we'll talk about the robot example. In the car, I can go down dirt roads that don't have lines. I can go down narrow roads where my car has to pull over and let other cars pass back and forth. And so those are learned things, just like we learned and what to do. And one of the hardest things was, let's say I come to a four-way stop, you know, it has to obey traffic laws, and traffic laws are whenever, if four people come to a stop at the same time, well, not four people, let's say two people come to a stop sign at the same time, the person to the right has right of way. That's the rule. But the problem is, if the other person doesn't assert their right of way, the computer will just sit there and say, well, no, I'm not supposed to go yet. I can't go. Well, luckily, they've programmed it in and said, well, if you wait too long, okay, go ahead. Now, we use hand gestures sometimes too. There's some implementation, and well, we use hand gestures a lot of time, but I mean more like hand gestures to say wave somebody through or stuff. I had an incident. I was coming back from Zephyr Cove, and they're working on the curbs and gutters along Highway 28 by Incline Village and stuff. And there was a where a stop and a one lane detour where you had to go into the other lane of traffic and it was regulated and stuff. It's learned to handle that just fine, and it does a great job. So those are edge cases that have been programmed in. Now the robot will have some learnability inside itself, but big things will be done when it checks back in. But if you think about it, the robot the robot is not thinking about why it needs to go. Well, it will start to. It can say, basically, you'll say, go do the laundry. So let's say you're organized and you have a laundry hamper. It would know that it's supposed to go to the laundry hamper and go grab them. And if you've told it, it should separate the whites from the color and do all that. It'll do all that and do a task. I mean, it's 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 it is a thinking being in that regard, but it's a thinking and learning, and that's the whole thing. And that's the kind of scary part about AI is up till now it's been programmed by programmers, and now with AI it's learning on its own, and the capabilities of that are are it's almost like imagining the fourth dimension. It's very hard for us to grasp it, and a lot of these futurists kind of do, but no, it will solve problems. I'll give you an example, and I don't mind just making this up because I like to de-geekify things. So the robot knows to go pick up the mail. Let's say you have a mailbox out on the street, and uh, or in a cabinet, it knows to pick up the key and goes out and it goes to the cabinet. Well, it knows to open the door, but maybe it's never encountered that the door was locked. And so it needs to know to turn the switch on the lock. And so it might be that there's somewhere in there, if you've never taught it that because you've never locked the deadbolt, well, it knows to check, okay, open the deadbolt and then I can open the door kind of thing. And those are things that it will learn. And it doesn't have to be taught. And that's the compute power of the huge computer. I got to tell you, these computers that are making AI and helping it learn, the machine learning, Microsoft has actually now done a contract to set up part of one of the nuclear plants on the East Coast because these computers are so power hungry. It's this whole new thing, and that's just because they can crunch so much information. We are on the cutting edge of it, and the stuff I'm showing you here that it can do is so pedestrian and so minor to its capabilities versus what's coming. And yeah, it's scary. It's a different paradigm. The questions that come up is it going to displace workers? Well, yeah, it's going to displace workers, but we've had that before. If you look at the Industrial Revolution uh, displaced a lot of workers, but then they became learned. The Information Revolution, people transitioned into that, but that's it's all these that it's going to happen, and the ramifications of it are kind of interesting. So, did that answer your? I mean, I was long-winded, but I mean, your question brought up that, and it will truthfully learn, and there'll be limited learning capability within the device itself, but the big learning is done on these big computers, and that's called machine learning. And
Okay, well, Ken, part of what I'm thinking about is if you asked Grok to design a bridge, Grok could not do that safely because there's no way Grok could find the foundation analysis for the particular site of that bridge, unless it was replacing a previous bridge where that information had already been obtained. But put a bridge in a new place, Grok would not be able to know how deep to put the piles. Could design a beautiful bridge, but there's no way to know that it was safe until that foundation study was done and that information was available to Grok.
absolutely, nor could an engineer.
Oh, right.
But part of the problem with that is now, and this is one of the things that they're all grappling with is, and this is the biggest task they're doing in AI right now is, and from an information standpoint, if it doesn't know something, it makes up answers, and those are called hallucinations. And they're putting in its own double checking to do that. But now, as you can see by my survey, if you gave it the report, the analysis, the engineering, the soil analysis, and all of that information, it could then design that bridge.
Well, maybe, but this is a key thing is not knowing what you don't know. And that's especially true in those engineering projects. And if that's a potential hallucination of the AI, that could be a real problem because who's going to tell it, wait a minute, you don't know that.
Well, but that's where, okay, first off, I agree completely. And if so it goes out and uses other projects that have been out there and consolidates that. But the most important thing on anything like this is the engineer still needs to validate it. And that's important. There's some cases recently, and I listened to this one guy, this one podcast. It's called Leto's Law. This guy is he's a lemon law attorney, but he has a really good podcast. It's Lehto, and there are when lawyers present cases to judges, they they cite previous legal rulings, and because that bolsters either each side uses those previous rulings to bolster their case. Well, these guys are putting stuff in, and they made up cases, and the lawyer gets blamed because he doesn't go check it. So it's like, and the judges are calling him on it. When AI first started, it was interesting too because kids were submitting kids, I say kids and young adults, were submitting papers in school that AI built, and they look miraculous. And then, so what they did is they developed it where teachers can run that paper through AI to tell if it was built by AI. And so then they mark them down if they did it with AI. So, but I agree completely on that. But it's again, it's.
Hi. Oh, we met earlier. Yes.
It's taking, so just like doing this web search, instead of me looking at 10 pages, it goes out and looks at 50. If it went, and I mean, and my freshman year of college, I studied engineering. I don't know engineering well at all, but I know what you need. So if let's think of it this way. If it could access every single engineering book that's out there on stresses, on fluid dynamics, on what kind of soil type has this reaction to that. And one engineer is one engineer. That's why in big projects they have many engineers, because the more engineers you have on it, the better cross-checking it is. Everybody might have a specialty and things like that. But look at it this way. If AI could take the compendium of every engineering book that's been written out there, every soil study book, the other thing is, the material itself is a huge deal. It goes out and does that. And it can take and coalesce all of that. And it's the same thing as one engineer only knows so much, 100 engineers might know 10 times as much, and 1,000 engineers. No, but I'm saying because it's not logarithmic on that. So the more you have, the more, and obviously that creates problems because of designs and things, but the more information, the more valid information you have, the better you can do it. But so much of bridge design too is, there's the aesthetic nature and all that other stuff. I mean, look at the darn, what was it? The Verrazano narrow, not the Verrazano, the one in Seattle, the bridge that they completely forgot about the winds that create the oscillating of the bridge,
Can 100 engineers would tell you there'd be 100 times the expertise.
They say that, but it wouldn't be because there's overlap.
Well,
Yeah.
we know, but
Yeah.
they would say.
Well, but each one would say there's 101 because I'm worth double. But anyway, I mean, that's a valid point, and I think it needs to make sure it comes into it. And again, we're on the initial stages of that. And it's more or less like we talked about the octagonal sign that's been bent that no longer looks like an octagon. Those are called edge cases. And a smart system would anticipate those edge cases and develop a way to make sure that it knows about it.
Well, who told Tesla that was still a stop sign? I mean, was there a programmer person or somebody observing the edge cases?
So here's how the transition happened. Initially, there was lines of code that computers put in that told the car what to do. Okay. And then when one of us would disengage, like stop at one that didn't look like a stop sign, it a person would analyze that video and say, wow, why did the person intervene and take this action, making this edge case? So they would do, and I'm using this as just a broad example. I'm not saying it actually happened, but the idea is, okay, it's the person stopped here, what did that? And so they'd put in code. Well, if it kind of looks like a rough version of an octagon, okay, go ahead and accept that and things like that. But that was code that would be sent to the car during an update. Well, what happened is, and the big thing that was the huge stretch about 4 years ago is they started analyzing, and maybe I can set the stage for this. If you remember years ago, there was in fact, here, I'll get back on, they would take athletes and they would put little dots on each of their joints and they would analyze how they ran and how they jumped and things like that. And it was uh, it was done with cameras, and that's how they kind of did 3D modeling, right? And so it was video, and they were trying to look at stop action, and the oldest thing was they were trying to figure out if all the horses' feet were off the ground at the same time, and they finally came up with a picture that showed that. That was a big deal. Well, they decided that they take so video is very intensive and there's a lot of data there. And for a computer to analyze the video it's got to be very powerful because every pixel is moving and doing different things at every different frame, right? So there's a ton of data there. So people were analyzing the data, just people. Well, they moved it off where the computer can analyze the data, and they said, okay, in this example of a bent stop sign, what did 90, they took the top 5-star Uber drivers in Teslas, and what did 99.95% of them do in this situation? And so that became the thing is what happened to the acceleration pedal, what happened to the brake pedal, and what happened to the steering wheel in these situations. So that became it. Instead of telling the car, here's what happens when you see this, what it's doing is saying, well, forget that. When you see this, what did drivers do? And again, it does something with those three things. So it cut the code down dramatically and it made it much easier. Plus, we didn't have the computer power 8 years ago to be able to crunch that video. Now that video can be crunched where you don't need a human being looking at the video because there's enough compute power at the big AI computer that is analyzing these 2 million miles worth. Again, think about it. You're getting 2 million miles worth of data every day. So edge cases will still be a case. So what happens is I've had it happen 3 times. It says, I don't know how to deal with this. Beep, 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 beep. And it says take over immediately. And if I don't take over immediately, it will come to a stop. Now, mind you, I have driven, well, in full self-driving, I've driven over 25,000 miles and I've had that happen 3 times. So, and I mean it didn't used to be good, but it's amazing. And that's there. In fact, later this month, they're going to roll out full autonomous driving in Austin in what's called the robotaxi. And if you go to San Francisco and in quite a few other cities, they have it too. Google's parent company is called Alphabet. Alphabet has Waymo, and Waymo is a Jaguar electric car or electric SUV that has $200,000 worth of sensors and cameras and LiDAR and radar and everything. And it is amazing. I had it take me from Van Ness down to the ferry building and very comfortable, very secure. There's nobody in the driver's seat. In fact, they won't let you sit in the driver's seat because you're dangerous. You'll take over. The car does better without a driver. And it's amazing. And again, like for taxis and for Uber, the most expensive part is having a driver. So it can really change all of that. And the price per mile goes down. And this is all going on the self-driving thing. Young kids, we all, there's this freedom. We love cars. It was our sign of freedom when we were young. I can remember when I had just gotten my license, my mom asked me to go get a gallon of milk at the store because she knew I wanted to drive. So I went up to the store and came back with a half gallon of milk. And she said, well, I asked for a gallon. I said, oh, I'll go get another half gallon. And she knew exactly what I was doing, but I wanted to drive the car more. Kids these days, especially in the suburban area or in the cities and stuff, they don't care about cars. They don't care about driving. There's no ownership with that. And in fact, as we get older and can no longer or should no longer drive, self-driving will be a factor. And it's amazing because when you eliminate the cost of the driver, it will cost less money to take a autonomous vehicle, have it come to your house, pick you up, take you to the store, take you to downtown, take you wherever you want, then you would pay for your own insurance, your own payments on your car, and everything else. Because you got to remember, most of our cars sit for 98% of the time. And it lessens the amount of parking that's needed. So the future on that's really good, and AI really made that happen. But I agree with your bridge thing. You got to have all the details in there. I don't know. You know engineering. I just was watching an incredible YouTube video about the Citicorp Tower in New York that they built, and because they had to build around this church and everything, it turns out that this world famous engineer, the guy got all these design awards for it, and this was decades ago, but a certain wind from a certain angle at a certain speed could topple that building and cause it to cause other buildings to topple over. And it was a engineering student that did this in her dissertation and said, wow. And nobody would listen to her. And then finally somebody else brought it out. And this engineer finally agreed. And they actually had to do internal reinforcements, welded reinforcements instead of bolts, because they can occasionally get hurricanes into New York. And if one had hit from this angle at over 70 miles an hour, it could have toppled that building. And it was an oversight by this world famous engineer. And he, to his credit, said, oh, yeah, we need to fix this, and didn't try to go away from it. So it's engineering's tough. And yeah, I mean, I still think, you would have to, I think it can help design it, but I would have trouble trusting it right off the bat. But the more information, the better, I think, is really what it is. And you see how much easier AI can help you gather sometimes pertinent information.
Well, one of the great things that earthquakes have a lot to teach, but being able to aggregate, right, how this building built this way dealt with this particular stress. You don't know that stress until the earthquake provides it. And maybe that's a little different down here, further down the peninsula. And so by having Grok, who can take all of that information and collate it into lessons for new buildings, or as we see with a lot of post-earthquake situations, you get this seismic reinforcements because they've learned something from the earthquake that just happened. And then you have the next earthquake and you learn more.
Well, the same thing happens in air crashes. That has become, they've made it so that even near misses and things like that, that they don't blame the pilots, and what they're doing is they're really being proactive about learning from that. But your thing about earthquakes. So first of all, for building designs and everything, just forget AI. The computing power has gotten so good that the computer can run all these analysis, and that's not really AI. That's just it's you punch in a number and say, oh, do I need a number 10 rivet for this, or do I need that? And it kind of crunches that and helps you out a little bit where it was the guy's brain. But you're thinking about an earthquake. I remember the Loma Prieta earthquake. And if you think about the Bay Bridge had three types of construction. They had the pier construction, you had a suspension bridge, and you had a structural cage, for whatever it's called, with the overhead, girders and stuff. And the Loma Prieta was a rolling, or it was a rocking earthquake, and each part of the bridge reacted differently because they were different types of construction. And that's why that one section opened up, because you went from on piers to the overhead structure, and they oscillated at a different frequency. And who would have thought?
Well, and I think that's part of not knowing what you don't know.
Right, exactly.
That who would have asked that question, like the grad student did about that building? If
Yeah.
somebody had asked that question about the Bay Bridge, they could have modeled a Loma Prieta style motion and said, whoa, we've got to do this reinforcement on them. But nobody, they didn't realize that was a question to be asked.
Yeah. Well, and realistically, if you, yeah, I mean, you got to know to ask the question, but hopefully AI will get smart enough that it will ask that question or prompt you to ask those questions. And that's the positive to it. But I think that it's like the old Reagan thing, trust but verify. If it's going to build something that's really critical and stuff, make sure first. And I am not I prove it to me first that I can trust you on it. It's kind of like in my car. My foot still is always by my brake pedal, and my hands are always either on my steering wheel or right next to it because I've suffered through not, I mean, I've been with autopilot in the early days when I started in October of 2015, and it had a mind of its own. And so you know what? I don't want to just have it steer off the road someday, but oh my gosh, it's improved dramatically and unfortunately, I think that it gets to the point where you get a little complacent because it's gotten so good. And that's a whole nother thing. So, any questions anybody's come up on AI? I mean, we could even put in there, hey, what was the reason for the collapse on that or things, but you know, AI, I think is, well, let's look at it. I'm going to be running it very soon because I get some intestinal distress with some of my medication. So I'm going to put in there, and I do medications and supplements like magnesium and thing. So I'm going to ask AI with what I take, what is it that might be causing that, and how to do that. And it'll probably yield some results. I'm probably not going to post that on here right now. Just I'll save you guys that, and don't worry, there's no video of it. So, but I just think it's stuff like that, and actually, I think drugs are a great thing because uh, pharmacists are great and they're really good about knowing, oh, well, the doctor may prescribe something, but the doctor doesn't know that you're on a counterindicative medication on here. Well, AI can run those things and check it. I'll give you an example. So I have this thing called polymyalgia rheumatica, which I'm recovered from pretty well now. It's been a long year and a half. And I have a drug that's an injectable drug that really has been great for me, but I really want to start tapering off of it because of my travel coming up. And I went into AI and I asked about what is the protocol for tapering and things like that. And I have a great relationship with my rheumatologist, and I started the conversation with look, you're the one running this. She's been great. She does a lot of research and everything. And it's a fairly rare thing. But anyway, I didn't want to countermand anything, but I said, in this research, I saw this and I was able to go in and ask her the right questions. And she agreed we can try it. And the best thing is obviously if I start to get symptoms again, then I just can go right back on a higher dosage or my current dosage of the medication. But I used AI to research that and not to change my medication, but to ask the right questions. And I think that's the way to go about it. You do that, think about it. You go to buy a car, you go look at the car reports, you go to consumer reports and those things, all that. Well, you ask AI to do it. And to me, that's baby steps for AI. AI can do that stuff all day long. but it's the gateway drug to using all the other AI stuff. And I just can't, I just Pete did too, and I encourage you to just start using it. And I find that instead of starting to do a Google search, I immediately go to AI and ask it there, and it comes up with things I wouldn't have thought of. But secondly, it goes and searches a bunch, and I can still go do it rather than click on this website, come back. But the further refinement of it is what's really, really good. Barbara, go for it.
Yeah, you were talking a while ago about that when it doesn't, the app doesn't know what, or platform, whatever they call it, doesn't know something, it'll make it up and it's called a hallucination, which I've heard of before. Where have you run into that, and what, I mean, I can see some obvious things that you would think would be a hallucination, but I can also think of some that would be a lot more subtle. So,
Well, yeah, I don't know if I've run into it because I'm not smart enough to know if it was lying to me or not. But I would
check
say
and
that,
verify, right?
yeah, well, no, I'll give you an example. So uh, if I suspect that, I would go run it in another AI program.
Huh.
But again, I don't. If it was that obvious, it would catch it. And it sounds to me like it's less and less. I just love saying the word hallucination, so I make sure I bring that up. But it is something that they're really, really working on. And Harmon, you talked about engineering. So computer code. Computer code either works or it doesn't work, right? AI has been phenomenal to be able to write computer code. And you either know if it works or it doesn't. And what it's done, it's saved programmers time because there's a lot of mundane stuff that happens on it. So, Barbara, it's a great question, but yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and it doesn't know what it doesn't know, and
The White House was just embarrassed by something. I can't remember what it was, but
Ask AI.
yeah, they had made up some references just like the court cases. What was it, Barb?
I said, ask AI what it was.
Oh,
yeah,
there you go. But that just happened within the last 2 weeks that they had done something that was, I think it was maybe one of Kennedy's kind of things when they made stuff up on the vaccinations, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I mean that
And
if you think about it, that happens. In fact, when I did my first AI presentation, gosh, it was maybe a year and a half ago here or 2 years, and things changed dramatically to here. Someone brought up a really good question about, and I'll talk about deep fakes in a second, and we'll close with that. But the thing is that they asked about, well, somebody's kind of programming this, and what about AI, and what about morals and ethics? And we were talking about politics, and I'm going, at the time, I mean, politics in general, we weren't being political, but I said, oh yeah, like already politics is so moral and ethical, right? And so it said, why wouldn't this? And so, you know, it it's like the old thing they used to say, garbage in, garbage out. It's like you don't know what you don't know kind of thing, but it's AI is gathering information from all of these sources, but AI takes it one step further than us just going out and finding that information of everything that's out there. If we go back and why I started with it, AI took that that spreadsheet and analyzed it. Right or wrong, it analyzed it. So it went through and it knew what the group was. It was an Apple group, etc. And so it thought through it to analyze it in a way that it thought was palatable for me. So it took that information and crunched it in this huge supercomputer and came up with a result. And actually, I probably was a little remiss because Mary asked the question about her phone doesn't do AI, and I went out into the Apple AI thing. Everything I did today was inside the browser. And what's happening is the browser is simply sending that data to a computer. The computer is crunching that information and coming back with results. So it's no more it's the same result that if you had an iPhone 16 Pro or a 15 Pro that could do it. You're not gaining, I mean, the only gain you're going to get with the newer chips on the phones is you can use Apple's version of AI, which still is very, it's not that there yet. You can still use AI to do whatever you want on this. It was more when we start to get it to be able to do things on our phone where you can say, take this photo and adjust it to do this, things like that. So, you all have the capability and the power to use AI, even as long as you can get on the internet, because all it's doing is it's just like doing a Google search. You're putting in information, it sends your question over the internet to another computer, it crunches it and comes back with a result. And it does it in lightning speed. And then if you want to search deeper, it doesn't take longer because of the connection. What it actually is, it's searching more sources. Because most people want an answer right away. They want microwave cooking. But if you really want to have a barbecue, it's going to take a while. So you go into deep search and it takes a little longer for it to do more research. And then it comes back. And I'll tell you, it's just damn amazing.
Well, you've convinced me I'm going to try it like on the example, the insurance, because I feel like insurance has really gotten expensive. You got to pay attention to what's going on, and maybe it can do some analysis for me to hone things, the questions down.
So yes, and Mary, that's a good example. But remember, and so there's two components to that. So first of all, you could upload your computer policy,
Mhm.
whether it's in spreadsheet or you might have to do a picture or something, and you could say, where could I save here? And so there's two components to the insurance. It's going out and trying to get quotes. Well, AI is not going to be super good with that because a lot of times you have to log into a place and do things like that. But it probably can do some of it, and I would give it a whirl. But first, it will analyze or give you what you want to know. I mean, how many of those categories in your insurance policy do we not know? Most of them, right? And so I would say it's going to be great for analyzing that. And
Okay.
once it does that, then the nice thing is you can go out and do it. And then theoretically, you could then say, well, if I change this coverage to this, what happens? Or when you go to the websites for the insurance companies, when you're getting the quote, you can look at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
That's a testy one. I agree.
yeah, and you got to remember, and with insurance,
Yeah.
it's tough, and this is where AI probably I would ask it one other thing. What are people, how are they happy with insurance? Because sometimes you pay a little more to have insurance that might have good coverage. And I use Clark Howard, USAA, and it used to be what Amica were the two that were the top. I'm not sure if Amica still is, but you know. And then one thing you have to consider is if you're with a mutual company, you get money back at the end of the year, which isn't reflected in those rates too, because you're the owner of the insurance company and they you know they share quote the profit. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, especially in where it's I think it's starting to shake out, but it's very, very difficult. So cool. Any other last questions before we go? Again, Linkmaster Al has been at work here, and it's the endless chat and a small group today, but hey, it was good.
Always good.
Oh, Harmon has another. Harmon, your question is great.
No, I just want to know if that's your green MG over your left shoulder there.
Yes, that is a 1953 MG
Wow.
GD. It's not mine. It's my best friend's.
Well, but that's
So,
what you're going to be driving.
yes, and in fact, I'll blow mine up. Let me spotlight me. So we have race seats in it, so that's why we're so low. And it is a this car. Brent will be turning 71 on the 12th, and his parents bought this car when he was 4 years old. They were the second owner. His 94-year-old mother, she was 92 then, flew to Colorado Springs 2 years ago, and I got out of the navigator seat, and she got in and crossed the ceremonial finish line inside this car. And she's one of my most favorite people in the world. When he was young, she was showing him how to drive this little sports car, and he was going into the corners and stuff, and she said no, and she gets in the seat, and he shows her how to kind of go enough so it starts to drift through the corners and all this. And oh my god, I mean, it's just special. So he has owned, the family's owned the car, and he owns it now since then. So it's really special, and it's a fun race. You guys can follow it. It starts on the 19th. It goes from up here in St. Paul, Minnesota to South Carolina, and it's over June 21st to the 29th. And you can go to greatrace.com and you'll see it. We are car 29, and it's the little MG, and I'll be posting updates. So, Dennis, you have a question? Go for it.
Yeah, I can. I remember, this is non-AI related. You mentioned at a previous meeting that you like the Eufy cameras.
That was Pete mentioned it, and I concurred.
Okay, I have a driveway floodlight and camera combination that a different brand that has now crashed on me. So I went to AI and I said, what's the best outdoor floodlight security floodlight and camera? And it recommended something called the Eufy S330. And I thought that was pretty cool that you and Pete both recommend it too. So I'm thinking
that's great. But now so I would have refined it to say I have Apple devices. And then you could say, and I'm concerned with security and privacy.
Okay, I will do that.
And so if it hadn't to come up, then it probably would. And so, and again, it's great that it showed you that, but we've all got to think it one step further. My God, we're so used to being in this little, okay, let's do it. And if we give it too many words, we're going to get not as many results. So further refine it to what your wants and needs are. And in your case, you could say something like, I want 2 spotlights. I want it to be able to do this. And I mean, that's good. And then go look at what it recommends. And if that looks like it does it, fine. But otherwise, just further refine your search. And I mean, I'm glad it came up. I think the Eufy, I only have a Ring doorbell right now. And then I have little Wise cameras inside my house. But I will, because of the way it ties in with the home and the iCloud, in fact, I probably will before my trip, I will probably get a Wi-Fi camera for my front and backyard. And I'm definitely going with Eufy because they're very reasonably priced too, and no subscription.
Yeah, that's a good part too.
Thanks for bringing that up because that was good, and it's good another win for AI. And by the way, did you use OpenAI ChatGPT, or which AI did you use?
Perplexity.
Okay, another great one. And again, you guys, I only showed you Grok because I'm on Grok, and they're all kind of the same. But remember, I sometimes will take and go across platform to look at to see if the results are the same if I'm not satisfied with what it says and things like that, and to further look at it. So,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Any other last questions? Oh, thanks, Al. You put Leto's Law up there. Hey, podcasts, you guys. Podcasts are the greatest, and I really, really, really love them. And I listen to most of my podcasts at 2x speed because there's not enough hours in a day. So, good. Barbara, go ahead and ask your question. You'll probably be the last one, and you're muted.
So since you said you check the different platforms because you may get different results, if they are supposed to be providing information based on having researched everything that's available on it, obviously they're using they're either using different sources to come up with different stuff, or they're using different analysis. Do you have any idea?
Or both.
Is both. That's true, or both. Do you know
Yeah,
what
so
is at play there?
they're more than so Grok, it used to be that most of the chat GPTs and the other AIs were a couple months behind. So current events weren't good. They've gotten better with that because what they do is they process it in batches and things like that. And then Grok was an advantage because it uses the Twitter front, or AI x.com, which is a lot of new stuff. Um, and they, believe me, I know for a fact that XAI, which is Grok, is their first rule is let's be down the middle. Let's not bias it. But that being said, if the information it's gathering from has somewhat of a bias, it could be a little biased. But they're all gathering all the information in the world. They have different ways of analyzing it. For instance, Grok isn't really good at doing images, like making images of things and things like that. There's some, what is it, Mid Journey, I think it's called. The ones like that are really good for making art and different things. So everybody has its little forte. But if I suspect something, I would go and try it on different ones. And actually, it's just a good thing to do if you have time, just to kind of see. Um, but when it all gets done, they should all end up being the same, but I don't think they're to that point. And again, boy, what a task. I mean, the amount of information that's out there is just wow,
Well, it's not like there isn't contradictory information too. I mean, whether it's scientific articles or whatever, there are alternative databases, alternative analyses and stuff like that. So, you're not even starting from the same thing in some ways.
Well, it's kind of like Wikipedia. Wikipedia has become very biased, and it's because of it's all done with a bunch of people doing editing, and it's kind of been, but unfortunately it's kind of like the natives have taken over and they're biasing it in this direction, and concerted efforts to do it. But in fact, it's a gathering of data, and it can be, and so if you and I would think that if you I don't know, because I've tried not to do, I don't search, I do my own kind of listen and read uh, stuff that's either left or right. I haven't asked it to analyze it, but that would be a good thing to see how it analyzes it. And it might, I don't know if you develop where it looks like you're more right leaning or more left leaning, if it tries to do those results for you. I don't know, because I haven't really asked it that and tried to stay neutral, but it does remember kind of you and your profile. Yeah, that'd be interesting to test it. So I don't know.
So they might be using algorithms too, is what you're saying, that's possible.
Well, I know that right now everybody wants to be the best AI that can be out there. So I would say that they would probably be, if they're smart, they're trying to be as unbiased as possible
Mhm.
so that they can become the AI.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really am encouraged that it looks like they're going to start doing some things here in the States to help companies develop and be bigger with AI. While I'm a uh, small government person. I think the big thing there is we need to be the leader in AI, because if someone else is the leader in AI, that can have consequences that us and AI can't even dream of yet.
Yeah.
Do the paid subscriptions help with improving AI to be more, I guess, accurate and unbiased, if you will? Is that an impact or?
No. So, but let's put it this way. I don't mind paying
Right.
a bit for Grok because I want it to survive. And it's just the one I chose. I would be, if I were in using Chat GPT, I'd be the same thing. I have some ethical issues with how Chat GPT came about with OpenAI was supposed to be. It was supposed to be open for the world, free for everybody. When Elon Musk was when funded it with Sam Altman, it was supposed to be free and everybody could use it, and it was very altruistic. And then now it's become very much all about monetary, and it's just that so I have a problem with the ethics of that. Okay.
Right.
So I choose not to support it, but I'm not telling people not to, and it's really good, but that's just my own thing. So and if you do it for free, then they're not getting any money out of it, so that's okay. But the 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 payment doesn't, what happens is they generally have, like, ChatGPT is up to, I believe, 4.0, and you pay a subscription to be able to use 4.0. And 4.0, the old one was 3.5. Well, 3.40 is like 10 times better than 3.5, even though it's just a half a number there. And you're more likely to be able to get results on 3.5. So 3.5 doesn't have, for the most of the stuff you're asking it, you're going to be fine. And you can get that for free with limitations. And what they're trying to do is trying to get it, I call it the drug pusher approach. It's, hey, try it, and then we'll try get you in on that. And I don't know that most of us would be doing anything deep enough that 4.0 makes a big difference. But it's the grass is always greener, and you don't know what you're missing, kind of thing. Oh, am I missing this or not? And so, and it's still, God, this is so new. It really is. The term artificial intelligence was coined back in the 50s, but we're finally now just because it's to the point, it's because we have enough computer power now. And I don't mean our own computer, I mean the big main computers that are crunching all of this info. So good question on that, but I would just, get a path, and then um, try a couple in the beginning, and then, like Pete mentioned, he's invested, quote, in OpenAI because it remembers him, and mine remembers my history, and so Grok was really easy for me to get into because I was already paying $20 for X.com, and because it got rid of ads. So
Hmm.
anyway, and we'll revisit this as we go along. And when we have our get-togethers, if there's any awakenings you've had, share it. Share it on the Facebook group. You don't have to share what it was, but what you were doing and different things like that, because we all learn from others, and it's this is they say this is as more life changing than January 9th, 2007, when the iPhone was introduced.
Well, that's why I think I'm going to try Apple's to support Apple Intelligence.
No,
I'll just start.
no,
Really?
no.
Well, I'm
Not
sorry. We'll
yet.
talk about
Well,
that later. I
first,
just
Mary,
gotta-
you can't because you have an iPhone 14.
Okay. Well, that takes care of that.
And it's not there. And if it has any hard things to do, it goes out and asks you to use chat GPT.
Okay.
It is
Way behind.
yeah. But again, you gotta, it's weird because I mean, we sad to say that Apple always is, they're not first, but they're best. Okay. Well, in this case, they're definitely not first and they're not best yet. But I wouldn't, yeah, it's not there.
Okay.
So, for me, part of the reason I chose Grok was also because of privacy concerns and stuff. So, Google has Gemini, which is really good. Microsoft has Copilot. OpenAI has ChatGPT. Again, I question the ChatGPT ethics and I'm concerned about privacy and security. Grok is trying to be just like everything they're doing, open to everyone and trying not to be biased. So, but it could be all wrong too. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Donna, did you have a question? You look poised.
Well, I used GPT, and
And don't stop using it then, please.
I certainly won't. I think it's much better.
That's fine.
than
And that's
Grok.
great. And it may in fact be.
For my uses.
Yeah. And it's wonderful. And again, like we said, though, also too, there's certain things if you're, pictures, there's certain things that are good for that. And if you go back, I did an AI presentation. If you go back in the live videos on YouTube and look at my AI, I have a slide up there that was which AI is best for what things. Because some are specializing in certain. I mean, you can get it to produce a picture that looks just. I'll tell you, if I were a professional photographer, which I'm the farthest thing from a professional photographer, I would be worried because they can come up with perfect pictures with just you tell it what you want it to show.
Yeah, but Chat GPT has a few additions to it. It has like Canva is connected to your subscription.
Yep.
And
that's really good. I saw that when I was doing some of my testing around on different stuff.
And there's others, there's other things.
All right, Barbara, this really will be the last question.
So just one thing I learned about a couple nights ago that I wanted to pass on to people. This is also AI related. There's a platform called Transcribus, Transkribus. It's out of Austria and Germany, and it transcribes both printed and handwritten material. So like if you're doing genealogical or some other kind of research and you have that old script and stuff, it's far from perfect, but it will transcribe. It won't translate, but
Can
it will
you
transcribe.
Can you spell that again so Al can put it in the chat?
Yeah,
Then everyone will be able to hear it,
Transkribus, Transkribus.
And
hang on. Slow down for him, please.
Chat GPT translates handwriting too.
Yeah. No, most of them do translate handwriting and stuff.
The Mormon Church has done a great job with AI and has something that you can put a name and a date, and it'll go through every record in there that they've uploaded to it so far, and they continue to upload, and find that name for you. So obscure real estate records or things are
That's
right
fantastic.
It's at your disposal.
So the other thing is you're on your phone, most newer iPhones, well, it may only be 15 Pros or, but anyway, if you hold it up to something that has writing like the one behind me, it will allow you to copy that text, and if I'm in a foreign country, it'll translate it right on the fly. And the app for ChatGPT, the app for Grok, the app for the others do the same thing. They will take and you and do it on the fly live for you. So Al, was she able to spell that for you so you can get that link?
TRANSKRIBUS. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I've already
Transcribe
the
it.
PDF. I'll make another version.
Well, hope to see the rest of you guys on Thursday and some
Yeah,
of you board
see the rest
members
of you
later.
later today.
Thank you for everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Al, did you save chat again now? You got well,
yeah, I'm
there
done.
it is.
I'm
Oh,
gonna get the
perfect.
PDF.
Got it in there. Thanks everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.